Hello and welcome. Hopefully the music isn't too bad. Oh. I can control it. Yes. Can I control my microphone? Yes, I can. I can control it. It goes all the way down. Now it's super loud. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the... well, I'm very loud. Let me turn that down a little bit more. I am peaking like crazy. Hello. Hold on. I'm going to change it because I've got gain set up on this mic. It probably sounds really weird. Turn off the gain. There we go. It's probably a little bit better, right? I was trying to fix it because there's a lot of problem. People are like, you can't hear you when you move backwards. It's like, oh yeah, because my mic is kind of weird. And I overemphasized gain. In fact, let me go back and fix some of the gain here too. Down to out here. Let's see if this is good. Hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, it's probably too low there. Too low. Good. That's probably better. Shakus. What kind of misguided drama is frothing today? I don't know. Oh, okay. I got to turn it down a little bit more. There we go. I'm trying to save everything properly, and there we go. That should be fine, right? That's sounding soft but good. Okay. I just got to sound a little bit louder. Hello, welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. All the drama, all the time. Listen, I don't know. Let me check on. I've been very calm. Let me check something real quick. Okay, a couple things you're going to find out. Oh, we had a live service disruption. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. Let me check my Discord as well. Usually my Discord's pretty good with that one. The only thing I can hear is, so I'll go over, I need to like have a tinfoil hat, like just get tinfoil and just like, or aluminum foil and just put it on my head so we can talk a little bit about the conspiracies. Cause I'm kind of loving the idea of the conspiracies around Star Citizen. Cause they're wild, yo. They're absolutely fucking wild. Are y'all ready for this? Well, let me get some spooky conspiracy music going. Okay. Y'all ready? Here we go. So, like CIG conspiracy stuff. So, CIG has canceled the gala. That's right, the big gala that every influencer was talking about as a confirmation that CIG was going to get Mark Hamill himself to bless everyone's child personally at their studios was canceled. This means that CIG is 100% canceling Squadron 42, and it is never coming out. "100% confirmed by my brother's best friend's roommate, who says he works for CIG." And this is confirmed because Squadron 42's monthly report didn't come out until today, a day later.
Spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
It's not playing? Let me check something real quickly. This is the problem about using new audio setups. Oh, that's why it says monitor only. Monitor off. There we go. Monitor off. Close. Really silent dance. Let me try to reset that. Give me a moment. Stream elements.
You can take away my spaceship.
2 seconds.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Agent FBA just resubscribed for 25 months.
Okay, that's not it. Log out. Log back in. Twitch.
You can take away my spaceship.
Can you hear it?
You can take away my space suit. You can
Okay,
even
but I
take away
can't
my
hear it, so
space
give me a moment.
lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Is it echoing? There we go.
Agent FBA just resubscribed for 25 months.
Okay, so we're just gonna have to deal with the echo for now because the problem is that I can't hear it myself. Because my options are monitor and output, monitor only, which means you can't hear it, but it won't play, and monitor off, which means you can hear it, but I can't hear it. There we go. All right. Didn't play your thing. I didn't see any anything else like that. Yeah. I didn't see any message though. It was really weird. All right. So let's go back to the wonderful spooky music. Hold on. Audio will get there. I have to figure out the whole thing. Like, it's a brand new audio setup. I have to play with it. I've got it to limping and working right now, so at least the audio is okay. I need to sit down with someone for like an entire day to figure it out, because that's the only way that you can get these things to work, is by hitting it with a hammer multiple times in different ways and then seeing how it reacts. All right. What's the other one? Oh, also, we're going to get Squadron 42 to come out early. Everything has to come out early, including Star Citizen, because apparently there is tax incentives that you have to release it by a certain date in the UK. Otherwise, the king himself will show up at your door and take a gigantic shit on your studio's front lawn. Confirmed. Them biddies.
How many Germans does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1. We are very efficient and have no humor.
Thank you for the biddies. Dog Platypus. There's some weird ass takes coming out there. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I 100% understand what CIG is doing as to doing things like naming Star Citizen's beta 1.0 owl release, because that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Except for the fact that I think it's a marketing decision in the sense of like the not like marketing as in like marketing's making decisions, more as like it's better to market it as a 1.0 rather than a beta, because people already think Star Citizen's in beta. So maybe. Brit here can confirm it's a very real and important ceremony. It also brings shame upon your company for the next 30 generations, and it is required by every British citizen slap you and your descendants if you work for that company when the king takes a dump on your front lawn. So they're taking a very serious look at that. What exactly does a beta look like compared to release? A lot more bugs, and not all of the systems are in place. Like, all of the game systems are in there, but the planetary systems, all the ships, all of that stuff won't be in there. Sure to pan out. Yeah. So, those are the conspiracy theories from Star Citizen this week. Honestly, it's almost certainly that CIG is starting to look at what Squadron 42 is going to release. Hopefully, they're at this point sitting down and looking at, okay, what is our release strategy for Squadron? When are we going to release it? At what time period? What ads do we need to get? Do we need to get the actors involved? That kind of thing. They're probably in that process right now because the more we look at Squadron in terms of monthly reports, which we'll do next week for Squadron's report, the more it seems like CIG is heading in the direction of this is going to come out soon. All of the signs point to CIG coming out soon. I was fairly certain that they were going to announce a release date last CitizenCon, and they didn't, but they basically did. They came short of it, and apparently they were going to announce a date, and then they pulled back at the last minute. So they had an idea, they just didn't want to talk about it. Your conspiracy theory is that 3.23.2 won't hit live until July. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's what I've been saying for months. That we're going to have a 3.23.1, which was going to be for Invictus, and then we're going to have a 3.23.2 for live. I'm surprised that we have a 3.23.1a, but yeah. Naming is kind of irrelevant. It is relevant in two ways. Number one, it will 100% drive media attention because media loves a good Star Citizen story. Especially. Let me explain to you something about how online media works. Because not a lot of people know this. I've done a lot of research into it because it fascinates me. Just like a lot of stuff I talk about, I do a lot of independent research into it. So watching videos, reading articles, reading books, that kind of thing. And one of the things that you have to understand is that I should say, not all, because there's some that are actually better about this. Almost all gaming journalism is done through contracts. There are people who work on staff, but a lot of people have specific kind of like, not like really freelance, but they're not really there, so they don't have to pay them like full wage. They're paid on like how many articles they can release a day and how many clicks they can get. And as a result, what's important for a video game journalist isn't really hard-hitting journalism, because hard-hitting journalism takes research and time and effort of things they do not have, because they need to get a certain number of articles out or a certain number of clicks per article in order to get paid. So the kind of independent contractors, but it's not the kind of thing like where they can go off to somewhere else. Like they're like, they're not on staff. Most of them aren't on staff. There are some who are on staff, and you'll see them because they're usually the more veteran ones that have like a specific genre that they cover and stuff like that. So when Squadron 42 releases, the gaming industry will implode, sort of. The reality is that it's a click economy, and so they don't really do well to research because it doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to take as least amount of effort as possible with the most sensational headline as possible to get as much clicks as possible and drive as much attention as possible. You want to do that in such a way where you don't have to do as much work, because you're a gaming journalist. Your main job, most of these people got in there because they love gaming. They love video games, and these companies take advantage of them. And so a lot of them aren't union, and they are independent contractors, or if they do get paid, they get paid abysmal wages. And so when Star Citizen has any kind of news, you will see them post it. But you'll also notice that over time, those posts have gotten smaller and smaller. Fewer and fewer gaming industry is posting about Star Citizen every time they hit the milestones, because they've realized that they're not getting the kind of clicks they used to, because people used to love the schadenfreude of shitting on Star Citizen. But as time goes on, they've been doing that sort of thing to so many different games that they've sort of lost their reputation. Like Kotaku is a joke. It's a joke. And even after, and now that their parent company has basically hollowed them out and sold them for parts, they're not even really existing anymore. Everyone. So when Star Citizen is announced for release at 1.0, the gaming journalists will have a field day, because it is the easiest, clickbaitiest article you can imagine. Star Citizen releases after X number of years, only X number of planets in game. Star Citizen finally releases, still not complete. It won't be about the game. It won't be about how good or bad it is. It won't be about anything. It will just be about how Star Citizen took 15, 16 years to release, and it's not even complete. That's all they give a shit about, because they want you to be mad. Because anger and like the kind of schadenfreude, the sort of like kind of feeling is sells more than positive news. That's not even a fucking controversial take. Like look at any popular YouTuber, ask them if good news versus negative versus positive videos, which does better? Negative videos always do. So, and this isn't a unique Star Citizen thing. It's just Star Citizen is such an easy target for them, because it's just like CIG just hands them the ball. Like they just hand them the check effectively. But the thing about it is that I think CIG has realized many years ago that as long as they get their fucking name spelled right, all this does is remind people that Star Citizen still exists, and people go check it out because they're like, oh, good, I love to watch a house fire. And so they go to look it up to try to find more information about this melting project that is soaking up all this money. And then they find out, probably a third of them find out, oh, the game isn't abandoned. It's still being updated regularly on a quarterly basis, and there's still a large community around it, and people are still playing it. Maybe I should just try it. Oh, it's free flight? Sure, I'll try it. And be like, wow, that's impressive. There's no such thing as bad publicity. An aphorism that's older than the internet. I believe it was. I think it's a P.T. Barnum quote, but I'm probably not. But there's no such thing as bad press as long as they spell your name right. People are still stuck on the 40K, 48K BS package thing. Of course they are. But they don't believe you when you say, yeah, the backers wanted them to do that because people got tired of buying the ships individually. They just wanted a pack to buy all the ships. And people go, oh, well, those backers are the ones who are supporting the project. It's like, no, most of them have bought everything they want to buy and are just waiting. Most of the money that's coming in is new backers who are just buying the ships, buying a game. So, like, that's another reason why I could see why CIG is doing this as like a 1.0, because they know those articles are going to be written, which means CIG doesn't have to do as much advertising because those companies will advertise for them. You'll also notice that a lot of companies, most video game companies, are actually supported and funded by publishers paying them to advertise their games. So it's an unwritten rule, and there's no hard evidence for this, but it's pretty clear by most standards that video game companies pay off these big journalism sites. Not really pay them off, but effectively do it and hold up the like, hey, we won't advertise with you in the future if you are too negative about our game. It's not necessarily true. This is allegedly, because I don't want to get annoyed about this.
Iron Cord just gifted 5 subs.
Thank you, Iron Cod, for gifting those 5 subs. You're very important, but we're very impressive, Pennsylvania pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. This is allegedly. This has never been fully proven, as far as I know. It's just fairly well. The joke 10 out of 10 IGN was a joke for a while, because people would say, "Oh yeah, it's like a 3 out of 10 game or 5 out of 10 game for games," or if they thought it was a bad game, they would like talk about how terrible it was and then finish with 10 out of 10 IGN, like every time. I think they've gotten better at it since then, but like, there's a reason that joke exists, and it's always tied to anytime a big AAA company was releasing a game, their banners were slapped all over sites like IGN's website. Their background images were these big games. They make their money through paying, but like by having these companies buy advertising on their site. So they're not really incentivized to be too critical of like Microsoft or Sony. But they can be critical of CIG because CIG doesn't fucking pay them shit. I think the meme is now 7 out of 10 IGN. CIG's board of investors are all friends of Chris Roberts. And Chris Roberts still owns a majority share of the company. But like, this is a thing. Like, it is a thing, and I would have thought, oh yeah, this is going to change when CIG releases Squadron, because they'll pay these companies to advertise their games. But as time goes on, I'm thinking, no, let them just make those clickbait articles, just to let everybody know that your game's out. The best journalists are smaller YouTubers who are not affiliated with these larger sites like IGN, because they make their living independently from the video game industry. And that is really like, I'm not going to sit here and like toot my own horn because that's against Twitch TOS, but I will say that like it's people like me who are the future of video game advertising. Because without independent content creators who are doing it for the love of the game, even smaller ones, you're not going to see. I'm trying to set this up so you can still see my tie. Can you still hear me well? Still hear me well? As I'm talking beyond the mic now. Okay, good. It's just because they don't have an agenda. Well, they do have an agenda, but they're more. People trust them more because they're like, hey, I like your content. It feels much more like the way movie reviewers were in your like local paper back in like the 90s or 80s, where like you read a review of somebody of a movie from a newspaper you read in, you know, the, like I said, 80s or 90s, and you trusted their reviews because every single time they reviewed a movie and they were like, hey, this is a good movie, you should go see it, and you would go see it and it was good. You go, hey, maybe I kind of agree with their stance on things. Wait, it's against TOS to toot your own horn? In fact, it is, because it's against terms of services. You can't get naked. If I could, I'd make my tie louder, but I just can't quite get it in the frame properly. Doc Platypus hasn't heard about the old urban legend about Marilyn Manson, have you? Hey, Gigarot. What if there are googly eyes involved? Maybe a funny little hat? Anywho, this concludes the conspiracy part of the show. We're going to move on to some other stuff.
You can take away my
Oh, we're removing ribs now?
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
RD Madeira just resubscribed for 35 months.
Thank you so much, RD Madeira, for that Prime sub for 35 months. You're a very important pubber, very impressive pisser, very new pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. 23.1a build failed again. They already said it's not coming out until next week, minimum, and we're probably not going to see that. It's only on the other screen, okay? But you can hear the audio here. You need to see the advanced audio properties monitor and output. So it's only on this one. Advanced properties.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
This was the screen that I was on.
Shadow_Willow has subscribed.
Thank you so much, Shadow Willow, for that subscription with Twitch Prime. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very pedestrian. Shouts and cheers in chat. My normal screen has the echo? There's no difference between these two screens.
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
Maybe I should turn off my yeah, I turn off the audio there.
Ever.
Hold on, let me double check.
Take away my space game.
There's an echo here.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Rage 9608 Ekridge has subscribed.
Okay, so it's only on this one. Is there no audio in the party? There is audio here. Advanced audio properties. Let me turn off. Let me delete the desktop audio. Let me try something. Thank you so much for there for Rage. Sorry about that. This again. The alerts were echoed. Okay.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit.
So you're hearing echo right now?
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Let me double check to see if there's multiple. You're still hearing echo? Are you still hearing echo? So it's still going on. Okay. No, it's gone. Okay, it's definitely audio.
9608 Ekridge has subscribed.
Okay, we do one more thing just to figure out if this is the case or not. Monitor only. Try it again. I'll do it one more time. Sorry, Rage, I'm using you again. Hold on. I'm not hearing anything is the thing. Okay. Are you hearing double?
Spaceship. You can take away my space suit.
Can you hear the sound and music though?
Lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Is it still going on? Okay. Weird. You can't hear any music. Okay, so it's weird because it's only on this screen. So if I do it on this screen, I have to have it at monitor and output. So let me try something. I'm going to do one more test here because it's entirely... You know what? I'm just going to do this. Streaming tools, elements. I'm just going to delete the Twitch alerts. Yes, delete them. There's Twitch, yes. There's Twitch, yes. Presentations, alerts Twitch, yes. I have it, alerts Twitch from the ending. Okay, so I've deleted alerts Twitch entirely. Going to add browser source. Create new. Okay. Okay, that's good. Do another one real quickly.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit.
Can you hear still?
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Is it doubled now?
Maribeth has subscribed.
Okay, so basically I fixed it. This is a weird thing where it's like, effectively I have to completely remove the source and re-put it in there, and now it's fine. You heard the music and everything, right? Yeah, I'm using OBS. Sorry for those of you watching at home if I have to do this testing. I literally just got a brand new audio setup, so as I try to get everything working, but I didn't have anyone sit down and work with me, I kind of got to limping, and these sorts of things are going to happen. It's not that audio is difficult. It's that trying to use a new source of audio plus a system which doesn't fully work all the time is frustrating, because OBS is an open source system. So as a result, anything can happen and will happen, especially if it integrates with anything dealing with Windows updates. When Windows updates, it can break everything for no reason. You didn't transition though. Okay, so you didn't transition from... Fucking fuck. Okay, one more time. Let's check it one more time. So can you hear the music now?
You can take away my spaceship.
And is it...
You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers.
Is it doubled?
But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Still good? No, no music. Oh, I know what's going on. Now you can hear music, right? I figured out what's going on.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Gilbert A has subscribed.
I completely changed the audio setup. So like the background noise. So in the office party scene, it didn't have the audio, which is the reason why you weren't hearing anything. Sorted that. Got it. All right. Anywho, this concludes our technical difficulties portion of the stream. We're going to head into more of the... We're going to look at... I'm going to be delaying as much as possible before we get to the monthly report, because the monthly report is beefy. As I should say, it is... the monthly report is... Make sure the audio is set up properly. Mike, where are you, Mike? Okay. So I'm going to do a quick test.
Test 1 2. Test testing the radio mic. Can you hear me?
Roger. All right. So what I'll say is that this report is thick. Extra thick. Them biddies.
From hints in the report, I think there's a progress tracker update next week.
Yeah, that is also what Jake said before. Jake said that they were looking to do it soon. So hopefully we'll get that. But it'll be the last. I can almost guarantee you this is going to be the last progress report until 1.0 or not 1.0, 4.0. Report felt pretty anemic. There was a lot of discussion about what we should be expecting with 1.0. Like they basically explained what they're shooting for with 1.0 and what they're doing with post 4.0, including 3 brand new ships which we haven't heard of yet. It's the Pixar Mom progress report. It's definitely cracked up on hopium for sure. But that's kind of all monthly reports. If you believe that CIG is literally sacrificing babies to an ancient Mesopotamian god for power, then yeah, you're going to believe that that the monthly report, they're just lying to you. Because there comes a point with Star Citizen that if you're just like, they're lying about everything, it's like, then you should report them to the government because they're breaking the law. If they're lying about everything. Like, you can't just come out with conspiracy theories as to just say shit like that. It's like, cool, have evidence, please. Other than, I feel like it. That's why I claim everything is an Alex Jones level conspiracy when someone talks about it, because, like, at a certain point, it is. They worship the Houston family? Yes. Now, Mrs. Incredible is an example, but I mean, Big Hero 6. Well, that's not Pixar, though. Yeah. Have you seen Alex Jones? He's pretty big, literally and figuratively. The Hurston family. Okay, yeah. And a variant they haven't announced. Yeah. So it's like 3 ships plus a variant. No, it's Big Hero 6 is Disney. It just feels like it's Pixar because they took a lot of, basically when Disney bought Pixar, they have been slowly training their in-house animation studios with Pixar folks, and so that's why like Frozen came out, and like Disney's new style is just Disney style but 3D. Pixar is Disney, but they're 2 different animation studios. Disney owns a lot of animation studios, actually. Like they own Fox Animation too, but they have their in-house animation team. Then they have Pixar. I think they have they don't own Studio Ghibli, but they have like the Western rights for distribution for Studio Ghibli. It's easier to make an list of animation studios they don't own. That is 100% true. At least in the West. They don't seem to care about any non-Western animation studios. They're mostly just North American animation studios. I don't know if they own many Asian or European studios. But I do want to kind of get a nice deep dive of that one. But let's do it this week in Star Citizen, so we can kind of explain a little bit more about that conspiracy. It's an Akau one, so let's go. Fun fact: I have 2 old Indy 2 workstations from old animation studio Disney had down in Florida. Nice. Disney now owns the rights to stream all Macross shows. We're never going to see a fucking Macross show again. Yeah, this is a new mic, UB. Is it good or bad? It's definitely going to sound different from my old mic. Hello, everyone. Chez Solène. CitizenCon 2054 is less than 5 months away. Where's the time gone? The initial reception of this year's event has been record-breaking. There's no doubt this will be the largest Star Citizen gathering to date, with only about 100 tickets left before we're fully sold out, and no plans to replenish stock due to building capacity limits. So now's the time to secure a spot before there's no spots left to fill. They've had, a fun fact, they've had 100 tickets, give or take, for this event for the last 2 months. So pretty much everyone who has bought a ticket will buy a ticket unless you've been holding out on it. So Squad 42 has been, the Squad 42 report's always been short. It's been short since they made the announcement that they're in polish phase, whatever the fuck that is. As we've gone deeper into planning this year's big weekend, we've decided to not proceed with the Friday night gala, initially announced as a limited availability event. Instead, we're channeling all our resources and energy into delivering the best CitizenCon yet. But fear not, the Community Bar Citizen coordinators are already planning fun events for nearly every night at CitizenCon week. Keep an eye out for barcitizen.se for details. That sounds like they're moving most of their resources and energy into delivering the best CitizenCon yet. That sounds like it just costs too much. To give you an idea, to give you an idea, last year, the reason why they had the party in basically the parking lot of CIG Studios was because the building wouldn't let them have that many people in their building. It was like city codes were going to be a problem because it's basically in a neighborhood. If you haven't been to CIG's LA studio, it's effectively in like a neighborhood. They're like houses around it. Yeah, it was fire code limited. And this was also supposed to be at CIG's Manchester office. And I imagine that they're a little bit more strict about fire code than they are in the UK than they are in the US, especially in LA. Well, no, because they're supposed to be in their own offices. That's where it was supposed to be. So my guess is it would have cost too much money to do. And there was theories that going around that CIG was going to get someone from like one of the big major actors to be there. And I'm gonna be honest, I always thought at the very beginning when they were thinking like, oh, some very special guest, my thought was, if this is actors, there's no way you're gonna get like Chris, like you're not gonna get the big actors to show up for like a tiny nerd event unless you're paying a fuck ton of money. Like there's no way it's gonna happen for a night on like a Friday night. That's almost impossible. Like I wouldn't like there's no fucking way you're gonna pay for those sorts of rates because it's a private party and it's a small group. So you'd have to spend, and because of the size of the event, they'd probably have to limit it because of fire codes, because almost certainly people would still be fucking working in the office. Here's a secret for those who don't know. CIG often works through the night before CitizenCon to get their final presentations ready for CitizenCon because they can be very, very intensive. And if this is what I think, and I think a lot of content creators think, is going to be the announcement date for Squadron 42, then it's going to be a big event, and you do not want to fuck that up. Yeah, Mark Hamill might cost more, but other people like Mark Strong might be too busy to appear at any price. There's so many different factors in there. And since it was separate from the premium tickets, they probably were like, oh yeah, we're going to have 50 people and we're going to sell those tickets. And that just sounds like a nightmare. So they're just like, let's just let the community do it, which honestly, better deal. What they should do in the future, and this is going to make a lot of people mad. So I want you to make sure you can spell my name, TheAstroPub. So when you clip this out and this ends up on Reddit, I want to make sure you at least know where to come to file your complaints and watch me live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Would love to see you here. Yeah, make sure you tell Reddit that. But I'm going to say this right now, and this is going to make a lot of people mad. what they should do is take content creators and have them have a nice closed door experience where they can watch early footage of what they're going to show to everybody else, so that they're prepared to talk about and or get that footage prepared ahead of time to do things like videos that can correspond with these announcements. So that way they have a prepared content ready to go when you are making content, which will then boost the signal of said content so that more people can get exposed to it beyond your tiny little channel's exposure. Because while CIG is a popular channel, it is not the most popular channel for Star Citizen content. And scattershot approach with taking a bunch of people who already are covering your channel, your stuff, and giving them exclusive access, early access, having them sign an NDA so they can only release it after a certain point, would give them a boost in terms of views and give you a wider array. Yeah. I say this because that would piss off a lot of people in the Star Citizen community because they think that streamers are destroying the game. It also lets you fire the ones that break the NDA out of a cannon. I say this because I've done this before. I did this with Starfield. I did this. I got early access to Starfield before anybody else did. Well, other people did as well. But I had up to like a month early access because they wanted me to play and do reviews. Yes, I have been fired out of cannon. I just want to make sure you can spell my full name correctly and make sure you link it properly so people can file their complaints to me here personally live, because I'm taking the CIG approach, whereas no news is all news is good news as long as you can spell my name properly. I mean, yes, Fair Assault, I agree. I think they should give content creators and the press at least a month early access to Squadron 42 so that they can do a review on it. You managed to play Starfield a whole month? That's impressive. Ouch. I had a good time. I literally had no bugs. It just sounds nuts because everyone posted all their bugs afterwards, but I was just like, I had not a single bug in my experience. And here's the thing. The reason why I say this is because it is a good marketing strategy. Because what you want with CIG is CIG needs to have lots of reviews and influence and like interest buzz for a release game. Because having people wait until the game's released is going to be a recipe for the news being whatever bungle you're going to make during the release. No game that I've ever experienced in the last 6 years has released smoothly. There is not a single game that I've ever played that has been a perfect, smooth release. And letting people play the game ahead of time, not stream, but play it ahead of time, get footage for it, build their own reviews for it, or their kind of early sneak peek, their early peeks, so that when the game comes out, they can release a bunch of like videos about it, means it takes the heat off of any bungle that happens where people are going to experience, hey, this is my experience with the game. Disney owns the streaming rights to Macross, but the original Macross series and the Do You Remember Love movie won't be included because they have physical release coming. Disney is notoriously bad with anime. Like, they never promote anime when they put it on Disney Plus. They just kind of drop it on Disney Plus and let it die. It never gets any buzz, and it's always sad. Titanfall 2 also gets it on non-standard, non-in-house PCs for bug reports. That's true, yeah. Actually did pre-release launch for Titanfall 2, and it was great. You did a pre-release? Well, that's nice. How did you manage to pull that off, Fairasalt? I would have loved to do that. I still think CIG needs some GTA RP streamer private server for a month or two, sometime closer to Star Citizen 1.0 or after. Not going to do it. It's that CIG doesn't know what the fuck you just said, Waymo. There's not a single like manager level who understands the words that just came out of your the words you just typed, other than CIG and 1.0. They're gonna go, what's Guitarp? What's a Guitarp streamer? And private servers? Yeah, but Jake is in a manager position. No, I know what GTA RP is. I know Grand Theft Auto role players. I have multiple friends who are GTA RPers who I've known since before they were massive GTA RP streamers. Like, I've known them for years, and they got big doing GTA RP, and I'm like, neat, glad. So, Kino, I can give you an example. There are some games which have a restriction where you can only play up to a certain point in the story, and you can only review up to a certain point of the story in order before the release comes out. And it's happened multiple times where press will get a full copy of a game, and they'll say, "Hey, you can play and release play up to chapter 6 or mission 7 of this game." And do not go beyond that until after release, because we want to kind of curb any sort of spoilers that might happen. And if you don't, there will be legal repercussions. There is that has happened before. It is an NDA you can sign. There's lots of that is not out of the question. More Vantool lore. Sure to fun us. So the future is Star Citizen roleplay. So I've said for a very long time that Star Citizen will get private servers whether CIG wants it or not. Because players are creative and they're technically minded. And if there is a market for it, they will build private servers with CIG's code. And I know a lot of people going, well, how can you do that? And the answer is, how does Star Citizen run right now? How did it run before 3.18 or before 3.23? It was just on servers. That's it. It was on like a regular server. It's only in the past couple of years that they've done things like moved certain aspects off to background information, background servers and stuff like that. And the NDA dance, like with Starfield, exactly. It's just a lazier form of demo, though, isn't it? It allows for content creators to create content about a game before anyone else, but it gives you a more of a wider approach, because you want to make as much noise as possible when you release a game, because noise gets attention, and attention grabs eyes moves to, the actual game, and then people will purchase the game to play it themselves because there's enough noise around it and people are talking about it. It's standard practice, honestly. And I know a lot of Star Citizen fans' last major game was Mario Party 1. The last Wing Commander game was their last big game that they played. No shade, I know my audience, but to be fair, my audience is getting younger. So several of you were born in the 21st century. Instead of when the Soviet Union was still around. That's also why I run out of Twitch content when big games come out. I don't want spoilers. Yeah. But I'm not getting any younger. We'll get back to this in a point. But yeah, I wanted to make that statement because there's a couple realities that the community, I think, needs to face, and they never will, which is why I've stopped trying to change people's minds. But I do enjoy talking about it, which is get used to the fact that content creators are good for the game and good for the community. And there's a reason why CIG talks about Twitch numbers all the time, because they recognize that Twitch numbers are an important metric because those are eyeballs. And if you want a game to live beyond the next couple of years, you want as many eyeballs on the game as possible. Paul, I don't like it that I'm younger than the collapse of the Soviet Union, but older than the 21st century. I was born in Soviet Germany. I feel offended. Listen, I was there are nostalgia bait movies that are being, or like TV shows and movies what are being released as being like, remember the 80s that like are like starting in like 1987, and I'm like, I was born that year. What are you talking about? Like what the like kids setting stories is like, you know, like young writers will write a story about an old time. They'll set like 1987 or 1986. It's like, don't do that. Don't tell me that's like 37 years ago. I don't want to know that. But by no means do they cater to streamers in an unfair way to give an advantage over their players. They don't. A 3.21a isn't just a dupe patch. No, there's other things into it. And I think they also decided they were going to add more fixes to it because they realized it's going to take a little bit longer to get 3.23.2 out. So you can hear that, right?
Hey, a tip.
Jesus Christ.
Danny super chatted $100. Love the channel.
Jesus fucking Christ. Thank you. Oh, I'm not going to read the report for another hour. Woo. Thank you. Thank you for the tip. I don't deserve it, but you know, thank you. That's a thick tip, yeah. Let's get back to this week in Star Citizen. We're kind of scraping the barrel for the next couple of weeks, which is why I'm thinking about doing a couple of videos about Star Citizen that are outside of my normal fare. Something like I've played with the idea of a history of Star Citizen, so people kind of understand what's going on with Star Citizen. But I've also known that like I don't want to do a half-assed job with that one. That's something I want to do like when 1.0 comes out or right before 1.0 to like do a full like 2 hour plus long thing. Do you plan on to do videos to give new players context to the project? That's the idea. That was my idea, or at least was because I see so many people being like, who at this point haven't been around as long as I have and don't understand things like how the game used to be. Because I was hanging out in Tomato's channel on Monday and we were talking and Tomato explained like, hey, no, Star Citizen was what Starfield was planning on, what ended up being. That's what the first version of Star Citizen was going to be. And we like we Tomato pulled up the 2014 CitizenCon where they showed the travel, the 4 FPS gameplay and the travel to ArcCorp, which was a cutscene. Hey, Celine. And I was like, people do not know, like, because people will hear things like $700 million and lose their mind. And it's like, I don't think people understand like what Star Citizen was going to be versus what it is now, and how much the change of just planetary procedural landing, what that did to the game. It fucked everything up. It fucked all of the game up. CIG will never admit it. They never will. But every single thing they did pre-2015 was thrown out the window. Nothing survives. Still, to this day, there is not a single asset that I can tell, like, definitively. Probably is. Someone just like, Paul, actually, this one asset, which was made in 2012, which is a tiny pixel, and I don't, you know what I mean? Not a single major a part of the game remains from the 2.0, from 2.0 era. Like, it was gutted. So they basically had to restart the project in 2015. Now, it's more complicated than that because they still had all the experience working with CryEngine, so it wasn't as hard for them to kind of reboot a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of things that they were able to do which were able to kind of smooth that over. Then the Crytek lawsuit and stuff like that. I think pieces of Area 18 might be. I think they were entirely reworked. Because like the social module that was Area 18 is not the same social module. It's not the same Area 18 we got when it came out. This is the fuel for naysayers. But yeah, that's why CIG doesn't say anything. CIG doesn't want to talk about that because it would, even at the time, they were afraid that people would lose their fucking mind if they were like, yeah, we got to throw everything out. But that's why you'll hear a lot of Star Citizen fans say that Star Citizen really didn't start development until 2015 because the current version of the game, the 3.0 branch, didn't come out until end of 2015, I want to say, maybe the beginning of 2016. I'd have to look up when 3.0 came out, but because I always, the dates blur in my mind between 2015 and 2016. I want to say it was 2016, but I could be wrong. That was one of the reasons why 2.6.3, I think, was so long because they were trying to figure out what the fuck they were doing. But like, that's the reason why. It's like, why is it taking 12 years? It's because it's actually taking, 9. Was the gear sculpture originally in the original one? I think maybe the security stuff is the same, but I can almost guarantee you the security stuff is going to change. Didn't start until 2015. Yes, the gear was there. Was it the same one though? But see, that's the problem, Luna. You say Star Citizen really, this version of Star Citizen didn't really come about until 2015. People will say, but I backed in 2012. And then you'll hear other people say, oh yeah, this game has been 17 years in development, because they'll pull some mention that Chris Roberts was, thinking about the game while he's taking a shit on the toilet in 2010. And that counts as development, The gear sculpture is the focal point of the social module. Okay, so I stand corrected. There are some parts of Area 18 that have survived, but I also don't know how long those are going to survive for. I wouldn't be surprised if the Area 18 we see now is not the Area 18 landing zone we will see in 1.0. You follow development since the pitch. Yes. So you understand what I'm talking about. You remember what happened when CIG announced Pupil to Planet. And how much of a switch that was. Because up until that point, CIG was raring up to release Squadron 42 in 2016. And then they went radio silent. And they made that announcement like right before Pupil to Planet, around the same time. And it's clear they decided to rework Squadron 42 with ground in mind. It does count as a development. Chris Roberts taking a shit on a toilet in 2010 counts as development. Then there's some long amounts of development that people discredit for. But even the systems that they were building for Star Citizen that come 2015 were very different from what we have today, because landing on planets and procedural planets completely changed how they would approach the game. Now, or like around that time, now they suddenly had to think about ground gameplay and ground assets. The bunkers we see right now were basically made for I believe 2017 CitizenCon. They're made for a CitizenCon, and they just kind of added them. They're like, it's here, just put it in there, but it wasn't designed for the game. Yeah, it was the guys who were hired from Crytek that decided to do that, because they had the team, the folks who came up with it actually had done a GDC demo of them procedurally generating a city in CryEngine a couple years before then. And so they had the technology, but Crytek wasn't interested in it. So when they got hired by CIG, they were the ones who apparently, like, Brian Chambers apparently was like, they came to Brian Chambers and said, "Hey, Brian, we have this idea. We'd like to try it." And Brian said, "Go for it. Just go do some R&D, kind of pull it out." And a couple months later, they showed it, and Brian had not told Chris that he was doing this. So they just kind of surprised Chris with this technology, and apparently that was like, was it one dude? I thought it was two people. One dude made Planet Tech in 6 months. I thought it was two people. It may have been the original pitch was two people, and that one of those people was the original like city generation was two people. I remember there being two names on that. I mean, Sean Trace has been involved from the beginning, but yeah. But yeah, it's stuff like that that's important to take into account. Like, people think you hear like $700 million and you go, oh, they have $700 million. Like, no, most of that money's gone. Probably all of it is gone. Like, if they didn't have $700 million when they started with 5 people in a basement, they grew over time, and eventually they became the studio we see today. But like almost all of it just goes straight into development. Brian told the story at CitizenCon. He assigned the team member from all other tasks and let him cook. Yeah, I remember it was one. I remember that he had let the person or team do it. I didn't realize it was one person, because if you look at the original demo, I did some research on it for another video that I talked about with when I talked about the retcons for Pyro. I kind of brought up the fact that the whole procedural city generation that was done in Crytek, and if I remember correctly, that procedural city generation has 2 names associated with it. So my guess is, if there's only one person, that one of those 2 was the ones who ended up getting in the to do the planetary tech, because they've already had that sort of stuff. Yeah, that definitely the Frankfurt office helped a lot. Yeah, the two founders, like Chris's co-founder is a lawyer. There's Chris Roberts, a lawyer. Sandy, his wife, who was VP of marketing. You had Ben Lesnick, who's just basically a super fan. You had Chad McKenney and a couple other people like that. Yeah, Ortman Freemuth. Just in wages, you figure 800 employees, each making 120,000 USD a year. That's 90 million a year. They don't pay $120,000 for all those. Like, they're even like community positions. You know, there are plenty of positions which are below 60,000 because it's video games. They don't make as much, but still, there are definitely people who make higher numbers than that. Speaking of retcons, will they have to do a ton of adjustments in the lore they will have to do a ton of adjustments in lore pre 1.0. They've been making adjustments since like the beginning of the game, but they're mostly going to be minor adjustments. What kind of adjustments are you thinking though, Kino? I bet the median CIG salary is $65K a year. Yeah, it's probably more like 70, but yeah. Yeah, 6-figure for leads. CIG's finances are on record. Yep. They are on record. I looked at Glassdoor, and 6 figures is not uncommon for upper level CIG people. Yeah. But I'm not talking, the vast majority of CIG isn't made up of upper level management. It's made up of people like designers and artists and QA. Is there any reason the 2023 financials aren't on the Cloud Imperium games yet? Yes, it's a 2-year delay. So we won't see the 2023 financials until the first week of January 2025. Because it usually takes them a long time to consolidate all of that information and then file it. Because I believe it's a 2-year lag for the law as well. Because the law is a UK law, so they have to file it for that. But, you know, while they're doing it, might as well. So yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about that. Like, CIG did start out with a lot of money for 20 people in a basement in Austin and a rented office in LA. And as they grew over time, they earned more money, but they still had a large war chest. And then probably around the Frankfurt era is when they started to dip down because they started needing more money than they had people. So I think it's around like 2020 when we start to see a lot of the CIG doing like major boosts in revenue every year. Because for a while there, it was like 60,000 or 60 million a year was like their high end. And then like the next year after their highest, like 63 million, it was like 100 million. Like and it was just because of Invictus. Like they did Invictus week and it boosted the sales like through the roof. I think that was 2020. I mean, experienced software and game design people, not just managers, basically anyone with 15 plus years experience. Yeah, and I know some people who are more experienced at CIG are taking a bit of a pay cut because CIG does offer pretty good benefits. But it's one of the reasons why I'm assuming a lot of folks who are senior levels are have left or are leaving is because it's just CIG can't afford to have them on what they do. I think they have a few holes to fill since they made so many diversions over the years. It's totally possible the lore team can only lay out so much ahead of time. Okay, yeah, because I can also see the argument that CIG is going to have a huge change in. I'm just going to go back to here because we're talking about. they're going to have a huge change in, like, people are going to go, well, how are they going to justify only like 5 or 6 systems at 1.0? And the answer is they're just not going to talk about it. Like, you just won't be able to access it. Like, well, that's breaking my immersion. Who cares? Like, CIG is just going to kind of roll with it. Squadron 42 report did talk about the Galactapedia editions and where they should be added to make things more coherent. Yeah, so the Galactapedia is going to automatically update for Squadron 42. So, like, if you see like a Copian on a planet, you'll have probably a little alert, little ding, like ding, Galactapedia updated, and you can go into your Moby and look at the Galactapedia and maybe have a nice voice that's like, the Copian, first discovered in Null in 2255. The Copian has become a seed creature from, you know, Codex style from Mass Effect. But yeah, I don't think the lore is going to be that changed. CIG's future-proofed a lot of that because they just don't do a lot of details. The thing that makes lore frustrating at times is the thing that's saving CIG's ass, which is they just kind of generally like wave their hand towards a system and go that, and then those systems can change. And I feel like a lot of people, because they're so science-minded, tend to think that the systems themselves are immutable, and so that when CIG changes a system to change, like increase or decrease its size, to change the nature of a planet, or you know, that kind of thing, they go like, this is a major retcon that's going to change everything. It's like those planets were just background noise because you were never supposed to land on them, so they were never designed to be anything but like, hey, look, this is a dead rock. Some of them will change because they want more interesting gameplay, but the themes of the systems won't change. Just like Pyro changed some of its planets, it's the themes of Pyro haven't changed. There'll still be plenty of dead rocks, yeah, because it's what matters is the theme. I've talked about this a lot, but CIG isn't subtle. What's the old meme? I know a lot of writers who use subtlety and they're all cowards. That's CIG's approach to writing. Because like the names of the system is what they are. Pyro is hot. It's chaotic. It's violent. Nyx is the goddess of night, so it's dark. Castra is where we get the word castle from. It's a fort, literally just a fort. It is a military base. Terra, also known as Terra Nova, is New Earth, so it's the New Earth. Hadrian is named after Hadrian, who built a gigantic fuck-off wall in northern England. So it's the wall of humanity. Crowshaw's a little different. I don't know who the fuck Crowshaw's named after, other than just the guy. I don't know if that's an actual historical figure. I'm sure it is. Or like it's named after a certain person. Yeah, how'd you work that out for Hadrian? I listened. Yeah, that's what a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people joke that this was an homage to Yahtzee. It's discovered by Crowshaw, yes, but like I'm thinking about the meta reason why they called it Crowshaw. Like, why did they name the first person to discover a system Crowshaw? What's the Drake homeworld? It's Berea in the Magnus system. That one's a little tricky because there's a lot of references to Magnus. Magnus is like a god of magic in a lot of fantasy universes, and Berea. Borea is a wind that blows from the north. Boreas. North wind. No, not Borea, Borea, which is like north or northern wind. Magnus is a traitor, did everything wrong. Magnus is Latin for greatest. Great. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Magus. Like Boreal? Yeah, that's where Boreal comes from. And it's fitting for Drake. But I will say there are some outliers, but typically CIG tends to wear their names on their sleeve, and that's because CIG is filled with writers who know that they're writing for a fucking video game. So they're not going to have subtle literary references for things. They're just going to hit you over the fucking face with what the thing is. Croshaw, Latin for angry Australian that it speaks too fast. Well, like, for instance, you all know who Babbage is, right? I'm trying to remember. Charles Babbage, that's what it is. First name. You don't know who Charles Babbage is? So Charles Babbage is the person who invented the digital computer. Not by invented, I mean the same way that Konstantin Tsiolkovsky is the father of rocketry. He's kind of like he was a mathematician and an engineer, but he kind of like came up with the idea of a digital computer. Babbage, yes. Let's talk measures. Magnus as the greatest makes some sense since Magnus was originally a major military manufacturing system. It kind of makes sense. So, and the reason why New Babbage is called New Babbage is because it's in reference to that original computer creator. The other thing is that there used to be an electronics and video game store called Babbage's, which is in reference to Charles Babbage, and that store would eventually become what we know today as GameStop. Yeah, it's what became I think it eventually became EB Games. It may have been bad stuff. Yeah. Konstantin Tsiolkovsky: the Earth is a cradle of the mind, but one can't live in the cradle forever. Well, it merged. Yeah, same like EB Games. EB Games merged with GameStop, that kind of stuff. So, like, it's a subtle reference if you want to believe it's named after Charles Babbage. It's a video game reference that's called New Babbage because it's named after the fucking the computer PC store, which is what New Babbage is just a PC store. Like, CIG in their names. Sometimes they are really bad at names, but often it's because like they want to give you an obvious idea of what is there. Babbage also had tons of designs for mechanical computers. Some have been made, and there is one in San Jose area. Nice. Alternatively, Magnus is just supposed to be be analogous to Magna Gracia in the original late Rome allegory. Oh, interesting. Yeah. It originally was called EB Games or just Electronic Boutique. Electronic Boutique. It still sits in my mind because when I was a younger child, and this is going to out me to my older fans and my younger fans collectively, my dad had a Game Boy, but he never used it. He used to play Tetris every so often, but he got bored of it. So I, over the summer, would go with my church group to LA because in LA for Disneyland, they would do these like special summer events. Like I think it was like early summer. No, it was not summer. It was winter break, I believe. Yes, winter break. So like they would do a winter break thing where like in like November or like early December. It might have been super early in summer. I can't remember exactly what times, but it was a time where it was like a little slow. I want to say it was the winter because it was a little colder. It was a little slower than typical, so they would have these nights, these deals where you could get big group deals for groups, and so my church youth group would always go down once a year to do this, and it's about an 8-hour drive from where I grew up in California to LA, so we would drive down in various cars, and during the drive, a friend of mine had Pokemon Red, and so we would take turns like sharing the cartridge because like I had my own Game Boy, but I didn't have any Pokemon. So I really liked it. So I asked my mom afterwards, like, hey, can I get Pokemon? And she was like, sure. And so we had to go everywhere. We tried every store. She couldn't find it anywhere because it had been sold out for months. And I remember she said, we can go to Electronics Boutique. And I'm like, what the fuck is Electronics Boutique? And they didn't have it at EB. So, That's why it's stuck in my brain still, because I remember being like, Mom, I don't think Electronics Boutique is going to have a video game. I have no idea what that is. Yeah, I don't think it was a video game store. I think Electronics Boutique was more of like a computer parts store. I think I ended up getting it at Radio Shack. I ended up getting Pokemon Blue, and it was at Radio Shack. That's where they had it. Yeah, no, I've heard in Australia, EB Games is still around. But EB Games and GameStop have merged, so yeah, no, EB Games used to be mostly a PC game store. Anywho, with that all said, let's continue to read this because I have delayed enough. Sorry, we get into some weird conversations here at the pub during the office hours. All right. The Invictus Launch Week celebrations have now concluded. This year's introduction to the utilitarian Argo MPUV tractor and the life-saving RSI Ursa Medevac, alongside two surprises, the new Aegis Firebird and Drake Ironclad. We hope you enjoyed this year's event and want to thank everyone who visited the expo. Last week's roadmap update committed the following cards to Alpha 3.23.2. Item banks, freight elevators, new cargo hauling missions, and personal instance hangars. This upcoming update packs a lot of fundamental mechanics into our core gameplay. What are you most excited about? Lore fans, yes, Nikau, will have also enjoyed learning about the 5 Vanduul-controlled systems, much more in our latest Galactapedia update. Okay. You want me to tell you what we know about those five Vandal controlled systems? We don't know where they are. We don't know what what systems they're connected to. We just know they exist. Which I'm like, how? How do you know these systems exist? Wasn't it 8 people? I don't remember how many people started the game. It was like, that sounds about right. But the point being, it was a very small number of people. It wasn't the 1,300 plus people they have in there right now. I love it. I kept looking for Greek references to Babbage because the moons are the three muses. Yeah. The Galactapedia updates were pretty cool. It's just sometimes it's just them putting up there what they have. Because there's always, every time there's one big update. And there was on Widow, which was nice. Hello, Poppers. Everyone doing good? Doing good. All right. So Monday, show us our annual Show Us Your Color celebration. Post your colorful Star Citizen creations and community hub. I'm going to pull this up if I can. Try not to ruin. Here we go. This is my annual post for the Pride celebrations. This makes a lot of people angry. It's a joke. If you're mad at that, don't be. It's a joke. Wasn't 5 systems always the plan? Not always the plan, but it was a plan from early in development. They kept talking about what they were labeled as the minimum viable product, or MVP, and it was always to release 5 systems. It's not really a joke. Do crimes. Be gay, do crimes, kill God. Let the people be angry. I do need to update that to say Drake Interplanetary, fuck the government, because that is their new tagline, which I think is still very. That's probably Gay Wrath Month rather than Gay Pride Month. Criming is a gay tradition. I spread the support. Pride does come before the fall. Drake is more and more openly militant against the UE every defense con. I legitimately, last IAE was sponsored by Drake, and the lore behind it was every whoever sponsors the IAE gets the theme, the IAE, and when they reached out to Drake and asked, "Hey, what do you want? What is the theme for this IAE?" They responded with, like, straight-faced, overthrow the government. And IAE was like, let's take this back, maybe. The government is part of this celebration, and we don't want to incur the wrath of the government. And they're like, fine. Power to the people. I still say we should only get one Pride skin in Star Citizen, and it should be a skin for the Drake Cutlass, and that's it. And it should be called the Do Crimes, the pride in your crimes skin, or something like that. And it's got to be gaudy. In response, Drake. It's important to note that Drake doesn't actually believe that. They just say it because it feeds into their image, and they like their image gets them money. Like they would 100% absolutely do stupid shit to people, would turn on people instantly if they thought it would get them more money. They are rampant, like, honest to God capitalists. Like, of the purest variety. Well, I'm going to watch this while I close the dispensary. Drake is all about impression farming. Yeah. And then there's the meme of performative corporate allyship. That's 100%. That's what Drake would do in a heartbeat. Does this piss off people? We're going to do it. Just spell our names correctly. So Drake is IGN. I'm trying to think of a good comparison to Drake. Just like how Castak Arms truly weeps for the innocents massacred by Vanduul. Be prepared to only buy Castak. We can protect you. Only we can protect you. Give us money. That's the reason why Castak Arms weapons are so over fucking powered. Because, like I said in that video, they're designed to stop a 10-foot tall, charging, armored killing machine that can survive the vacuum of space, who's dedicated to stabbing you personally in the face with a spear. When you put it like that, there's a reason why the Coda fires absurdly large caliber rounds. The Coda, when you absolutely positively have to stop a charging elephant. Coda is underpowered. I require a larger caliber round. The Coda should fire 50 BMG. Yeah, that's the reason why, like, all of Drake's weaponry is absurdly overpowered. Or Drake, Castak. Castak's, or look. Listen, the Coda needs to be able to fire a 18th century 12-pound cannonball. I have my Codas for home defense when I need to shoot the Tucker behind the fridge of my friend's ship that's parked next to me. I have a custodian for home defense when I need to kill an assailant and create a new doorway behind them. The Vanduul are the reason Titan suits exist? Yes, they are. Coda is for home defense, as the founding fathers intended. The last one's not even a joke. The Castak needs to make ship weapons so they can supply Drake with stuff for their ships. I mean, that's kind of what Apocalypse Arms is. That's the other fun one. If you don't know, Apocalypse Arms are literally war crimes. Every Apocalypse Arms weapon is a war crime. It was built in secret by a secret weapons manufacturer for the Mezzers, who were looking for weapons that would more effectively kill people who were protesting them. They're designed as human rights violations. This is the reason why you have why the railgun is so powerful, because it's designed to shoot ships. Listen, what if those protesters happen to have a cyclone? All right, that's the reason why you need that railgun, is for protesters in a cyclone. Which measure put that into effect? Linton measure. It could have been Ulysses. It was one of the last measures. Okay, so they fully crossed the line, the threshold into insanity at that point. Oh yeah, the measures. I'd love to do a video on the measures because the measures are a very interesting idea. I've labeled the measures into what I call the good measures and the bad measures. And the good measures are all the good measures are always the first measures. So Deacon, obviously Ivar Deacon. And the third one, let me look up my Star Citizen. My Star Citizen foo skills. Let's go. Knowledge foo. Wasn't Corson measure. Livia measure. So, Ivar, Deacon, and Livia. Livia, I believe, was the daughter of Deacon. Oh, he 100% staged a bombing to take power. He staged a terrorist attack, a false flag attack to get power. Hey, Max. I say good in the sense that that's why it's the big quotation marks, because he is very much a douchebag who is a dictator. He just had a good reason to do it, at least in terms of like, people could maybe argue that he did the right thing because he firmly believed that the Xi'an were going to invade and that he was the only person who was capable of dealing with the situations at the time. For those of you who are 40K fans, he's very EMPS coded. Everyone else is wrong, but I'm wrong. But I can do this. I'll do exactly the same thing that all these other dictators do. The only difference is that I know I'm right. So, yeah. But the Deacon was as smart as his dad, probably more politically smart than his dad of what he did. Livia was pretty good. She's actually pretty tame in comparison. To give you an idea, she championed monumentalism. She increased government oversight of media, setting groundwork for unofficial office of propaganda, expanded her father's efforts by increasing maximum sentences for criminals, restructuring the definitions of prisons, leading to new prisons on Charon 3. She also proposed restructuring the legal system after she was sued. And she was one of the reasons why Castro was built. And then her son and her husband died in Moscow in a tragic accident, which turned out to be likely perpetrated by her brother, Corson Messer, who became Messer V. Officially, Marius Messer was declared Messer IV, but Marius died when he was a child, so it was just more posthumously. So Corson Messer took over, and like from Livia on, the Messers get worse and worse and worse. Like, all of them are bastards, but like all of them are assholes. They're evil dictators, but like they were smart. And as like the earlier ones were smarter about it, they were politically savvy. By the time you get to Corson is where you start to see the like degradation, where like the brain rot of power begins to take over. The Yuzong Vong defense. Yeah. I wouldn't call Ivor good, but he was a competent. And that's what I mean. when I saw there's a term in Roman about from the Roman Empire emperors called the good emperors. They weren't actually good; they were competent. They didn't fuck over the empire, kind of thing. That's kind of what I mean by the good measures. I mean, they didn't cause major problems for everybody, just people who didn't like them. Still shitty, but you know, they weren't lighting fires and fiddling while Rome burned, kind of thing. And then after Corson, his daughter, who's actually kind of based, evil bitch, but based, Ileana. Because after Corson, we have Ileana Messer. Ileana Messer is Messer the Sixth. So she killed her younger brother and Gammon Messer, and her father with poison. Now, during her time, she's the reason why we have for instance, the javelin. The javelin was invented during Ileana Messer's reign. She was the one who it's called, it's mentioned a couple times as the second wave of Idris ships. It's like this, the high empire level, ships. It's where we get the javelin, the Vanguard, and the Avenger. Is under mostly it's the Javelin. She's the one who actually kickstarted the development of the Javelin, and actually personally was involved in the development of the Javelin. But her influence is why we have the Javelin, the Vanguard, and the Avenger. And if you compare early Aegis works like the Gladius, the Nautilus, the Idris, the Vulcan, and you compare those to like the Javelin, the Vanguard, and the Avenger, you can see what I mean. The design changes drastically in the 27th century. And Senator Strong for Stanton. Yes. But if I remember correctly, Samuel Messer was the douchebag. So Ileana was the last of the good Messers. Like, Corson was a son of a bitch. So was Livia, and so was Ileana. But Ileana at least was like, my job is to protect the people, and I'm still here to be afraid of the Xi'an. Her children were absolutely fucked. Because you have Astrid Messer, the Messer the Seventh, and Messer the Seventh, Astrid, she's the older daughter who took over, but she was, there was no decision of like who was going to be in charge. So there was a civil fucking war between Astrid Messer and her brother, her younger brother Samuel. But Samuel took over because of he was easier to manipulate. And Samuel was a little shit. He didn't know anything about politics. He was born in luxury and in power and had nothing, no problems. So he eventually, his Asians eventually assassinated Astrid, and he took over, and he became basically a little puppet. But then he grew up and became a little tyrant and killed all the people who were trying to puppet him. And when Orion fell during his reign, there was a big call for support in Caliban, and he denied it. He basically said, no, we're going to use the Vanduul as a psychological tool to threaten the people, to say, if you don't follow us, this is what's going to happen to you. Say the Xenos are bad and they're going to kill you, so we're not going to try to protect the systems from the Xenos to prove that we also are not able to protect you. This is what I mean by Samuel was a little shit. He was a little dumbass who was insane and like mad with power and illogical. He didn't make any sense. And he did some stupid things. Like he removed Orion from all of the jump points to pretend that they didn't exist. And then would like go on a rampage for people who didn't listen to him. I fucking hate from Samuel Messer on. It is just a list of failures. Like at least if you're going to be a psychotic dictator, at least be good at your job. Like Samuel Messer on. It's just one shit show after another. Then he eventually was replaced by his older brother, Gaylor Messer, because, you know, Simon was a psychopath. So Gaylor took over. So the third son, and the reason why he wasn't originally in there was because he was chronically ill. But Gaylor was also the high secretary for Samuel. So when Samuel had an accident because his guards shot him in the back of the head multiple times, Gaylor was put in charge and was, again, a weak leader. He pulled forces out of Toe Hill, which created the Revolutionary Road. He was mostly ineffective. Ulysses, who was his cousin, I think. Yeah, he was his nephew. So Ulysses was the nephew of Gaylor, and he was the one who was the high secretary, who was a little okay. He was more politically savvy, but he was still kind of he still wasn't as smart as the other ones. For instance, he raised taxes, stripped environmental protections, deregulated the markets, eliminated the minimum wage, and expanded police powers, rewrote treason laws, and reduced the minimum working age to 10. So in 2778, he realized everybody fucking hated him after he took over. So he decided to spend all of his money on mega projects like Kano Stadium in Angeli. And his two kids, Fiona and Linton, were thinking he was spending their inheritance away. So they decided to overthrow him in the most stupid and violent way possible by blowing up a stadium with their own homegrown terrorist organization that Fiona made, and forming a firing squad and shooting into their father's caravan, like transport, like his I want to say caravan, that's the wrong word for it. His motorcade, completely disregarding the people who were lined up to watch this whole thing going on. So a lot of people got killed, including one young August Dunlow's entire family, forcing him to become an orphan and making him very mad at the Mezzers, and one of the reasons why he became an anti-Mezzer revolutionary and helped overthrow the Mezzer regime, because they pissed off the wrong kid. Then Linton took over, and when Linton took over, they discovered Garen 2 and proudly proclaimed that they would become gods and raise up this small species to enlightenment, and then got bored of it and decided to sell his to turn the planet into luxury condos for his supporters. genociding an entire species of Stone Age technology. And when the scientists who were involved in researching this uplifting group got mad at this, they all ended up in fucking jail. They got black bagged and sent off to a political prison. So the founders of Rayari took footage that they'd been capturing of an entire species being choked to death because the atmosphere was changing around them, and smuggled it out to a group of terrorists who happened to be Fiona's pet terrorists, who she had saved from the purges after they had taken over from their father, and she was planning on using against her brother so that she could take power. They went rogue, used everything they learned from Fiona's training, because they sent, special forces Marines to teach them how to be asymmetrical, to engage in asymmetrical warfare, and then broadcast the footage everywhere. And in a panic, a lot of people began to protest, came out and protest the action, which caused the measures to do what they usually do, which is meet protests with bullets, shot into unarmed crowds. But unbeknownst to them, all of this was also recorded and also sent out to Spectrum. So instead of protesters showing up with signs, they showed up with Castac arms weapons and fired back. Thus began the anti-Measure revolution, which took place over the course of several months, eventually leading to the downfall of the Measures. So, that's a short history of the Measures, but the Measures are, really, really stupid. I didn't even talk to you about, Project Vespa, which is the stupidest fucking idea you've ever heard. It's like Nazi Wunderwaffe, the Wunderwaffen stuff. Like it's megalomaniac doomsday weapon shit, which would never work, which was, let's take a process that takes decades to finish, terraforming, and turn it into a weapon. How the fuck are you going to weaponize terraforming? You can't even send the fucking Atmo processors through a jump point, and it takes hundreds of them to do their jobs. Oh, but giant laser that slowly melts ice is not exactly a good idea to use as a weapon. That's the size of a fucking, like cruiser. What happens with Synth World Project? It's still going on in the lore. It's still in the background. It's just taking forever to do. There's just so much, the entirety of the Anthony Tanaka thing happened under them. Virgil happened under them. They just gave no shits about the people because they let the Vanduul run crazy. It's top to bottom, incompetence. Which is whenever I always find it funny because when people go, oh, but why is Star Citizen's technology seem so backwards? It's well, it's understandable. You don't really know about, most people don't know about how AI is insane. Well, not insane, just bad in the Star Citizen universe. So it always fails. But the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is, 300 years of a dictator blackbagging anyone who has any questions about anything probably stifles innovation. Just a little. Got how many of your smack talking space lasers? Brave. Just as an effective doomsday weapon. Yeah, it's fine. Addison told me so. But if you want to know, wait, why were we using a ship like the Idris, which was built 400 years ago in lore? Because the Mezzers didn't want to change anything because they liked it like this. Well, that's inefficient. Yeah, you're going to correct a psychotic 10-year-old? who has ultimate power can have you killed in a snap of a finger. I don't think you're doing that. I think you're just nodding your head and saying, yes, Sam. Yes, Mr. Messer. That's exactly Imperator. That's exactly what I want. Please don't fucking throw me in a goddamn prison. Yeah, there's also the idea that I think a lot of people think that technology must advance consistently and thoroughly, and if it's not advancing, there must be a significant reason why it didn't advance. Because people don't realize that time is not linear when it comes to advancement. You can like have dead ends in technology, or sometimes you just build something fine and it works fine. Like, we're still using the F-15. The F-15 is getting new versions. It has been getting new versions for decades. The latest version, the EX, was just released. It's going to be around for another till like 2028. The F-15 was first designed in the 70s. So those are old signs. Those are actually 4-year-old signs there, Jar Jar. So, but the next one is would be 2030 for us. Does CIG have any soldiers in their military or person stuff? I think they've got a few. BFC2, the buff is even a better example because it was built in the 60s, if I remember, or the 50s. It was built in the 50s. So it's over 70 years old. What do you mean bad? Kind of a bad example. It's exactly the example. Like, why is the F-15 still getting updated? Why does it still exist? Because literally nothing can fucking beat that shit. The thing is fucking amazing. It's good at what it does. And it does what it does on the tin. And they have fuck tons of replacement parts for it. At 1972, it's 2024. We still have newer technology. We have the F-22 and the F-34. Both are far more advanced than the F-15, but we still fly the F-15. In fact, we're still updating the F-15. Why? Because it fucking works. F-35, thank you. And that's the point. Like, why do we have the Gladius, which was built in the 2500s? Because it still fucking works. It does what it says on the tin, and there are literal mountains of replacement parts for the damn thing. But the version that we have today is not the same version that was released in 2550, I think. Far from it. It's just very different from the original. Like, I don't think similar to how if you flew the F-15, the original F-15, and you try to climb into a modern F-15 cockpit, it would be very different. So what you're saying is it still works. Exactly. That's the reason why the Idris, the Gladius, the Javelin, the Vanguard, why they're all in service in the UE and why they're so old is because they're relevant, because they were relics of an older time, which have been publicly available to the or been available for the public for a very long time, because there's just so many of them that are just lying around. And there's the reason why the UEE Navy still uses them is because they still work. They still do what they're supposed to. The cost of replacement then is greater than the cost of keeping it in service. Exactly. It's one of the reasons why in lore they built the Mark II for the Hornet, because the Hornet's been around for like 100 years. There are still plenty of replacement parts, and probably a lot of the parts that work on a Hornet Mark I will work on a Hornet Mark II. In fact, almost everything in the Hornet Mark Is works on the Hornet Mark IIs. It still works and doesn't cost the same as an aircraft carrier. Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why ships are so old in Star Citizens, why everything is so weird. As in terms of like why they wanted to make it the 30th century, I don't fucking know. I think just Chris Roberts likes his World War II analogies, and 30th century sounds a lot like 20th century. If you notice, the Squadron 42 starts in like 2945. Pretty big year. Similar to 1945. Almost like he just replaced the 1 with the 2. There's references to some genetic manipulation that was done at some point in history, because it is outlawed. UNE is one of the first things the UNE outlawed is like cloning experimentation, stuff like that. So was I saying the Gladiator? I meant the Gladius. The Gladius is what I was talking about. I still want the a crew mounted 50 cal on like on some vehicle in Star Citizen, and it's just a Browning. It's just a Browning M2. It's like, this shit is like over 1,000 years old. Why are we using it? Because it still fucking works. Now take this AK and go shoot some space aliens. Here's your AK-47 and your Colt 45. Go shoot some space aliens. Excuse me, it's not an AK, it's a P4. Sure, there are more modernized versions of the AK compared to the M2. I thought the Karna was the AK. Kind of, though CIG does have, here, let me show it pretty quickly. We'll get into, we're kind of off the tracks here. So let me show you, okay, we'll pull this up.
On the road to release.
Here's your Trejo. This is Colt. Come back.
So these are, by the way, these are Atmos processors right here. You see all these things right here. Just neat. Let me see if I can find the right time and place for this. Because there is a space AK. They show explicitly a space AK. And CIG has just said nothing about it. It's like, why do you have an AK, a space AK of all things, that we have never seen in Star Citizen? This is obviously a Castac Arms weapon. Please give me a Castac Arms AK. I can find it here. It's here. It's here. Here it is. This. Look at that. Look at that. Look at those weapons. We can rewind it a little bit. Look at that. Look at that. Do not tell me that's not a space AK. Look at that thing and tell me it's not a fucking AK. That right there. So you can see the like design. That is an AK-47 with something welded to the fucking bottom of it. That is an AK-47. You cannot tell me otherwise. Its design language is AK. Even as the fucking, what, I don't know what the fuck is that a magazine release? I do. The middle guy's helmet is pretty cool. It's like I said, it's a space version of the AK-40 of the AK. Yeah, it's definitely the design language is AK. That's got furniture on it. That is fucking furniture right there. Raises his gun. Look at that. Right there. That has got the profile of an AK written all over it. Three family heirlooms? Are they seriously trying to hold up an M50 with small arms? I imagine that this is some sort of deal that's going on rather than any kind of hold up, because that M50 didn't have to stop where they did. This is likely some sort of negotiation or some sort of swap. Needs backlight mags? Yes. Yeah, so space AK. That's what I'm saying. That is a Castech arms weapon. You cannot convince me otherwise. I would like to see that CIG. I would like to see the child. I would like to see the baby. What do you think will end up happening with player-crafted ships? Will they be like kit-bashed versions that are slightly less capable than regular ships, or maybe just don't get insurance? I imagine it's like insurance and stuff like that. The idea that I can see of why you would have something like player-crafted ships is more about, it's going to be more about players who can't actually go into civilized space to purchase the ships, so they can craft them on their own. I do not think people will be able to craft ships and sell them on the market as a means to make money, for instance, or to be able to build up I don't think like orgs will be able to manufacture like 1,000 Gladiuses or 100 Idrises on their own. Because that would just make no sense. But especially for ships like the Idris, the idea being that it's probably a lot more expensive and probably not as many of them will exist in like actual build. So having people be able to build their own capital ships as like an organization makes a little bit of sense. There's a lot of things they can go for it, but I think CIG has to kind of get an idea of what they want out of player crafting. But like the pilot could accidentally brush Afterburners and up 2 megameters away. If they made anything too close to a real weapon, they would have to listen to endless tiresome Americanisms about how they didn't do it right. Are you fucking kidding me? That is the one other. There's a handful of things that always show up on Spectrum, and one of them is the gun discussion, where Americans who love their guns more than they love anything will endlessly complain that CIG's weapon designs make no sense and they're stupid and they don't work and like obviously designed with no knowledge and it's not realistic and it ruins their immersion. What about slow-moving interplanetary battles with giant space lasers? I don't think you're going to see that. Yeah, people who participate in the laser recoil debate. I love it more than anything. Like I couldn't even think of a good like anything else. They just like I know those folks. They're very, very passionate enthusiasts. But sometimes it's just a video game, dude. It's just a video game. Like I get you want to be able to like strip and clean your weapon to make sure it's in better shape and you want to have the whole 9 yards, but you have guns. You can do that for yourself. Most people don't want to do that in a video game. Here's the plasma rifle. I made it at home to show you how it actually works. There are some cool things though. There's definitely room in discourse for things like, I still firmly believe the Coda should be a caseless ammo weapon. Why? Because caseless ammo is a cool as fuck sci-fi concept from the 80s. It still exists. Caseless ammo is a thing that does exist in our real time. The problem with caseless ammo is the heating problem. Where if you use caseless ammunition, it can heat up really, really fast. I wish they would change the laser weapon lore, bury it in technobabble about how it's a laser-guided plasma projectile or something. They've already kind of mentioned that it's not actually lasers, it's an energy weapon, and they usually call them energy weapons, but CIG's internal staff have a bunch of different names for them. They're just calling them laser weapons because it's just easier to say than energy weapon. Yeah. I mean, if they're not going to give us the drop empties reload animations, they should make them caseless because it's a cool idea. And one of the things that's often kind of floated as a kind of a plausible way of making caseless ammunition is to put them in revolvers, because that would solve a lot of the heating issue. Yeah, caseless ammo is real, just not practical, which is why it's great for video games. Oh, so your opinions matter. But when I bring up the fact that toilets have no gameplay, I'm the crazy one? No. No, you're not. I just don't want to have to think about the poor bastard who has to animate the pooping animations. Still waiting on that crossbow they previewed like 4 years ago. That thing's gonna be shitted out like the fucking Redeemer. You don't want the crossbow anytime soon, because if CIG just pumps out the crossbow the next like couple of like next year, it's gonna be the most dog shit weapon ever invented. Bro, pooping minigames are coming. Peeing minigames indeed coming. Again, I feel so sorry for the whoever has to mocap the shitting animation, because it's Chris Roberts. So we're gonna have regular pooping, hard pooping, soft pooping, and diarrhea, and explosive diarrhea. So you're gonna have somebody who like mocaps that whole thing out, and some poor animator is going to have to take that mocap animation and turn it into an actual in-game animation. Then some QA tester is going to have to test out the shitting animation to make sure it looks right. Yeah, the sounds. So the sound guys are going to have to create their own pooping sounds, which I'm sure they'll do audio samples from their own fucking toilets. You feel sorry for who mocaps it? The person in the suit, the person filming it? Yes. Poop beam. That is my new hope, that you just have beam tech that poops. I believe in beam citizen supremacy. I want janitorial gameplay to clean up after diarrhea gameplay. It's just going to be beams. It's going to be beams the whole way through. You know that. I unironically support Beam Citizen because I think Beam Citizen will make this game actually work and be fun. Can poop be an item like sandwiches in Starfield so you can throw it? Okay, I popped back in at a topic. We're talking about space AKs and other things like that. And yeah, I'm gonna get something to drink because I think it's about time. I've done delaying for 2.5 hours. We had some interesting conversations. Waste is a commodity. Before I do that, let's finish up talking about this real quick. Monthly reports. Tomorrow, they're doing the cosplayer contest. Today, actually. And then tomorrow is the first Star Citizen Live featuring a game dev discussion with Alberto Perno, Petronio, talking about concept ships. Okay. So about 10 a.m. my time. Lastly on Saturday, we're heading to France for Bar Citizen Lyon. Nice. Sweet. I also like to talk about real quickly before I go to get a drink. If you're interested in anything about what we talked about with things like the Mezzers and aliens, especially like the Van Duel, you really need to watch the latest Astro Historian video because it's one of the best stories. I think one of the best kind of like overall tales and an example of how CIG writes events and like the kind of repercussions, the reverberations of an event and how it can affect the story and narrative is the fall of Virgil. The stars, I did an entire video on it. It's about 27 minutes long, so it's in that sweet spot of people. But yeah. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And your fun button is on, so I do not know if it will sound. Let me double check.
Good news, everyone.
Distress bacon.
I love democracy.
Mission complete. Burrito I eat.
Yeah, it's probably on. Y'all can hear it, right? So, those of you on YouTube, mute until I come back.
To democracy.
Angfly,
I'm pilot.
Everybody and his dog calls
I
himself
love
an outlaw.
democracy.
Drugs.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
Mission complete. Burrito. I eat. Mega.
Good news, everyone!
Drugs.
2 words. Distress bacon.
To democracy!
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Weapons free, y'all.
Hello, I like money. I love democracy.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
I have returned and I've turned off your fun button. My cat's outside, meowing. I don't know if you can hear her or not, but... I'm gonna go get something real quick. I forgot it. Don't go anywhere. Got my phone. And I also wanted to double check the print that I was printing on. Yeah, I just stepped away for a few moments. I was abandoning you forever and for always. All right. Are y'all ready for me to do our fun capsule? Are you ready for it, chat? How's Cam's book doing? It's doing okay. Cam's trying to promote herself a little bit more to get it out there a little bit more, but she doesn't have a built-in audience, so like I do, so I've been trying my best to help, but yeah, she's doing okay. They changed the lore of the coil. They just changed the Galactapedia entry. I don't know if they did or not. They might have kind of focused on stuff in, but yeah. Do you think it'll make systems like Virgil dynamic, where you can fight to retake them from the Van Duel, then lose them again if people don't? Yeah, they've talked about the idea of doing that. It's something they want to do for sure. Hey, Angry PC Tech. Cam's already hard at work with her second book. I'm not going to tell you the title. I may have already said the title earlier, but I don't want to say it again. But I can tell you the idea stems around an exploration of grief. So, similar kind of Stephen King meets slice of life, but okay, that ended it. Sorry about that. Y'all can hear it, right? No? Okay, cool. So I'm reducing the audio. That was fucking loud. I turned it off, so. But thank you there, TV Liquid. Thank you for that raid. Sorry. New audio setup. My name is Paul Berserker One, Batman Shell, humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub. Sorry, I can't hear green. Let me give you another solid yeah, this Paul Berserker One, Batman Shell, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub. Welcome to the office hours. This is where we talk a little bit about Star Citizen. We've had a lecture on the Measures. We've talked a little bit about Star Citizen's history. We've talked about, hold on, I gotta get the right music for that one. Star Citizen conspiracy theories. Stuff CIG doesn't want you to know. Pooping and guns. Yeah, that too. Basil's getting real greedy. Woof. Indeed. The History Channel. Sadly. And you just came just the right time. We're going to be doing our read of the PU monthly report for May 2024. So how you doing? What were you up to there, Liquid? ERT salvaging and hoping my PC didn't fry when doing distribution centers. Same old, same old. Awesome. Well, for those of you who don't know how this works, these capsules are designed, they're done live, but I kind of record them for YouTube. So the idea is that I'm actually kind of recording a YouTube video live. So recorded in front of a live audience sort of thing. But I read through, usually what I do is I try to read through a bunch of news or other things. In this case, I'm reading through the entirety of the monthly report. I'll be reading from the beginning to the end, word for word, and then inserting a couple of context, because some stuff will just be said and be like, oh yeah, the context, they've been talking about this for a while, that kind of thing. So hopefully that helps you out understand a little bit more about how CIG is functioning. But I will not be reacting to chat a lot. I'll be mostly focusing on just trying to kind of talk at you rather than with you. Afterwards, we can have a little quick discussion as well. But this is going to take us about 40 minutes to go through this, because this is a thick one, I should say. This is a thick one. Just finished the DRG Season 4 Cosmetics tree today. Nice. He says that this is live, but we all know the truth. He recorded this last week before they even released. Exactly. I'm just psychic. All right. With that being said, here goes nothing. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule. This is a short segment of my Office Hours live stream I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive, where we talk about Star Citizen Star Citizen news, lore, and more. We'd love to have you come down and join this chat live while we do these read-throughs and other news sort of reports. They'll tell you this is pre-recorded because they like to lie to you. But I also have a new audio setup, so if things kind of break, just keep that in mind. But today we're going to be reading through the monthly report for May 2024 from the Star Citizen monthly report. So I'd love to have you come down and join us live, typically. But for now, without talking. Oh, actually, I do want to give you one more context. I'm going to read through the entirety of the monthly report from beginning to end, word for word, and insert my own definitions or my own conjecture, as well as clarifications, because a lot of stuff they'll talk about is stuff they've been talking about in monthly reports for years in some cases. So to help you understand like what's actually being said. But with all that being said, let's get to it. AI features. AI features. Following the launch of Alpha 3.23, AI features supported the upcoming point patch and future releases. Specifically, they work towards consistent behaviors across different combat scenarios, ensuring that AI characters react in believable ways no matter what the situation they're in. The team began by improving the unifying perception reactions, improving cover use in different scenarios, and making holistic evaluation of all combat elements to ensure they work as intended. This is particularly important with the recent improvements to the hostility system. For example, if an AI comes across two others fighting they are friendly with, both. Particularly, this is important with the recent improvements in hostility system. For example, if an AI comes across two others fighting and they are friendly with both, doing nothing is not a valid response. As the first pass implementation for Alpha 3.23, the AI will run and cower when the situation arises, although this isn't ideal and will be improved upon for an upcoming release. That's an interesting idea. That idea means that if you see an AI cowering between a fight between the Ninetales and, like, say, a security force, like just say Crusader security, it means that that AI is friendly with both the Ninetales and Crusader security. Suspicious. AI tech. Last month, an AI tech supported Alpha 3.23 with a bug fixing and optimizations. This included new metrics to better understand the size of the Pathfinder requests on live builds, navigation tile generation requests, and the number of active NPCs and voids. Improvements were made to the functionality of NPCs pushing trolleys and using elevators alongside updates to behavior for elevator use. Smoother animations when NPCs move away from trolleys and improved functionality for NPCs parking trolleys were implemented too. It's important to note that the AI tech team is working with both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. So they've been talking about NPCs pushing trolleys for about a year now, maybe more than that. I used to make a big deal about them having AIs pushing trolleys and stuff like that. But I think we don't see it in Star Citizen, so it's almost certainly mostly for Squadron that they're focusing on this. But because some of these do get copied over from the Squadron monthly reports as well as in the Star Citizen monthly reports, this is probably what they're talking about. AI Tech also began work to allow NPCs to understand when cover is being destroyed or when parts of usables are being destroyed. That's a great example of Squadron. Like, there's no reason to do that right now because we don't have Maelstrom in Star Citizen, but some version of it may be in Squadron, so that makes sense. This will prevent NPCs from attempting to find or use unstable or unsuitable cover. For ship AI, the team continued making improvements and fixing bugs related to following splines and backstrafing. Okay. Animation. In May, gameplay animation focused on numerous creatures, including the unreleased Kazi Grazer, Space Cow, the boy. Art characters. In May, character art team completed the high poly phase for 2 specialist armors and continued updating the utility armor. A new heavy specialist armor began development too. Character art also supported requests for the character customizer, while the hair team started work on new hairstyles for future releases. Progress was also made on new creatures. Very cool. Here's the meat. Art ships. For Alpha 3.23, ship art delivered the Aegis Retaliator's cargo and bomber modules, ensuring they met gold standard requirements. Argo MPVU tractor was also completed in early May. Elsewhere, Lot Zero was completed for the RSI Zeus Mark II, with a team delivering a significant amount of work on dramatically increase the detail in all areas of the ship. For example, lighting across the entire ship has been designed to bring out the volume and highlight details, while animation phases were done across Oh, that's right. Keep forgetting. I'm speaking very loudly because I forgot that I turned on the music. Again, like I said, audio technicals. If you didn't hear any music playing, it's because I didn't have it set up properly. Yep, that's right. Very smart. For example, lighting across the entire ship has been designed to bring out the volume and highlight details, while animation passes were done across all moving parts, with many receiving secondary motion to communicate a sense of weight. The next stage is a wear pass and completion of the ship's damaged states. Material passes are also done to help unify the feel of the new RSI ships in the future. So Dorito ships are the future for CIG, for RSI. Finally, for ship art, 3 other ships entered the white box stage. So, for those of you who are wondering, that means there are 3 brand new ships in white box. When they say other ships, I hear a lot of people in the comments, and I hear a lot of people in chat who talk about copium, who are coping really hard, hitting that copium when it comes to those sorts of mentions. Oh, 3 other ships. That could be my Kraken or my Apollo. No, these are ships that have nothing to do with anything that's released. If it's something that's already been announced, like the Mark II, for example, the Zeus Mark II, then they'll say the Zeus Mark II. But if it's a completely unknown ship, they'll say other ships. Sometimes they'll say other variants. So a variant we've never heard of before. So understand that what that means is that there are 3 new ships that are in white box stage. Community team began May supporting Alpha 3.23 Adventure Beacons, including the Mirai Pulse Gravlev bike. They published the Pulse Q&A comlink, answered the community's top questions, and a patch watch highlighting the sections of features and quality of life of improvements. They also held a Choose Your Character contest, giving players the ability to showcase their creations in game. It's pretty nice. The latest roadmap roundup, more details were shared about an upcoming Alpha 4.0 patch. The team visited Beacon event in mid-May in Liège, Belgium. Is that right? If you're Belgium and you know how to pronounce that, or if you know how to pronounce that, correct me in the comments below. The outpouring of enthusiasm was humbling as we connected with hundreds of players over 2 exhilarating days. Chris and Sandy Roberts were awestruck by the warmth of our community and the profound sense of unity within the Star Citizen journey. We commend the exceptional efforts of Beacon staff who tirelessly crafted this event for a year and a half, ensuring that it was a joyous celebration for all. Community team. The community team supported the recent Invictus launch week with an FAQ, the free flight schedule, the Anvil Hornet Mark I Sunset FAQ, updates to Aegis Saber Firebird and Retaliator, and QA links for the Aegis Saber Firebird, and the Argo MPUV Tractor, and the Ursa Medevac. They also published an update about the Overdrive Initiative event, ran the I'm Doing My Part video contest, challenging players to create a 15-second video showing how they supported the Empire during Invictus launch week. All I can think of is the I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. I ain't do fucking shit. that whole meme. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Support was provided for various community events, including System 7 Ground Racing League from Atmo Esports and the Ignition Expo from Anzia Racing. Not Starship Troopers. I'm talking about the other. That meme, if you know what I'm talking about. It is partially Starship Troopers. The community team continued detailing the weekly publishes of This Week in Star Citizen and updated the Arena Commander schedule. Preparations for CitizenCon 2954 are also well underway, and the team is dedicated to delivering an unforgettable experience, currently working through presentations, refining layout, and other fun surprises. Core gameplay pillar spent May closing out tasks and bug fixing for Alpha 3.23 and 3.23.1. While part of the team focused on the final touches for cargo feature, the majority continued working on gameplay features for Alpha 4.0 and beyond. In May, the core gameplay pillar completed a significant amount of work on the multi-tool refactor planned for Alpha 4.0. This will provide a more streamlined experience by putting the tool's primary attachment action on the left mouse button and a secondary action on the right. Planning for the remaining multi-tool refactor work, such as an updated UI and battery consumption, was also completed. Yeah, interesting. A primary and secondary action. So I guess like with like mining, you can mine, and then the secondary action would be like the beam that you can, like the tractor beam that works to kind of suck stuff in. What would be the secondary reaction for a tractor beam, though? For biome accumulation, the team completed further Squadron 42 porting work and scoped out how features will integrate into the weather system. The biome accumulation thing sounds to me like accumulating snow, maybe? Like making puddles and stuff like that for like with rain? Traversal for second action. Okay. Oh, the push-pull. Right. So instead of grabbing, you're reeling yourself back in for secondary. I get that. Oh, Charge and Drain also continued through pre-production and will now utilize the resource network, support multiplayer, and the ability to charge and drain distortion damage from ship components. Oh, that's interesting. So that's an idea of maybe engineering where you can actually use a tool to suck the distortion damage away, like a built-up charge you can sort of like extract from a component to make it work. Quantum travel is currently being reviewed to assess any aspects that are needed to be made for server meshing compatible beyond issues to be made that need to be made. Okay, it's really weird. Quantum travel is currently being reviewed to assess any aspect that need to be made server meshing compatible beyond issues observed during tech preview tests. Okay. Hail, fog, actual snow or rainstorms on the moons and planets. That's definitely something they want to do, but I think what they're talking about biome accumulation. For me, that means like accumulating detritus and other things that happen in an environment. So if like a leaf falls from a tree, it will build up. Snow, if it falls down, will build up. Rain, if it comes down, will start filling in the puddle areas, like lower areas with water. That kind of idea. But it's definitely, as I said, they want to integrate it into part of the weather system, and like fog, hail, fog, snow, rainstorms, those are all planned for the weather system. So support for Arena Commander's engineering mode is provided to allow items to be repaired once they reach 0 health. May also saw the core gameplay pillar improving various profiling tools that assess the performance of characters, vehicles, and interactable entities. This will provide more and better quality data. Locomotion improvements for NPCs performing sharp turns were completed, which will allow characters and creatures to switch direction more smoothly. Work required to adapt the inventory system to server meshing was scoped out, as it will require rework of its backend to scale appropriately. Initial version of the jump tunnel drive failure events was implemented in May. Now when a ship's jump drive is disabled or damaged, the player will be forced out of the tunnel, which correctly aligns to the exit point in the destination star system. Further improvements to the debug tools for the jump point gameplay were implemented too. Does that mean you'll drop out before the exit tunnel? Because that sounds awful. To be stuck in mid-space, like between two systems, possibly light years apart from each other. That doesn't sound fun. Hopefully it just means that you still get spit out, but you just get spit out messed up. For engineering gameplay, the team implemented power tools, which allow the streamlined power management of grouped items like weapons and thrusters. The resource network was enabled by default in the main Star Citizen development branch. Which ensures all teams can work with it and integrate their features or content with it. For transit, the team continued general release support for Alpha 3.23, an upcoming cargo and personal hangar update. Scope, technical, and planning discussions concluded for Transit Refactor, which is now in active development. Estimates and scheduling were completed for the remaining radar and scanning tasks, including deliverable targets. Team members supporting the patch release concluded their work and moved on to supporting radar and scanning. Okay. So we're seeing some radar and scanning stuff being implemented. Work was done on the objects of interest mechanic, which will allow designers to set up objects within the PU or Squadron 42 with various parameters and a special scan highlight. A special material was also applied when an object is occluded, so it shows one material within line of sight and another when obstructed. The team also added a fading effect for highlighting objects based on distance. Additionally, the work is done on including organization information in FPS scan data, while the new SFX was added when attempting to ping while the ability is on cooldown. The team also completed checks between the PU and Squadron 42 streams, raising differences so the team can continue to port features from Squadron 42 feature set. Finally, radar and scanning. For radar and scanning, the team activated FPS radar and other experimental radar features across Arena Commander. These systems will be released closer to the release of Alpha 4.0 for a potential preview via Arena Commander. So we're getting FPS radar in preview for Arena Commander for 4.0. This is neat. For Arena Commander, the team concluded work on the first version of custom lobbies, which went live with Alpha 3.23. Alongside general bug fixing, they also added team assignments, allowing players to arrange their teams in the lobby before entering the game. Support was also provided for GravLev race leaderboards. Initial work was completed on the first pass of the new EVA-only map for FPS game modes. Oh, so it's Gungo. Gundo. Kovlek Station. With playtest scheduled for upcoming weeks. So we're going to get an EVA Gundo Station FPS map. Nice. Additionally, the team began marking up all Arena Commander locations with the room systems, so they're compatible with radar. The Good Doctor was completed, with the rest expected to be finished in the coming weeks. The new front-end style was fully approved and began implementation. Polish was complete on the new animations, and the first example of the brand takeover was approved using Drake. This means a Drake style for the front end for Arena Commander? So you can change your HUD to a Drake in Arena Commander? That's kind of cool. This will be used to guide teams in creating more takeover designs for future events. 2 new strike teams were created to focus on 2 modes, one of which is FPS Horde. For FPS Horde, the game mode and initial setup was completed alongside the deliverable scope discussion and task breakdown. The primary goal of the mode is to provide developers with a fast, easy, and reliable way to iterate on the development of spawn closets, creature and human AI, and FPS radar. The team will assess the game mode closer to Alpha 4.0 on the feasibility of introducing it as a publicly playable experimental mode. That's very interesting, because that sounds like what they're doing is allowing you, they're going to spawn in not just like AI, hostile AI humans, but hostile AI creatures to attack you. And also to test out FPS radar, which is interesting. Additionally, the team worked on several quality of life initiatives for developers, including new vehicle control manager debugging. They also added dummy players to Arena Commander, which will allow for developers to test scenarios with actors that mimic players. For example, this was the first used to reproduce issues with team balancing and scoreboard UI with a high number of players connected. Previously, this would have required either multiple developers or multiple clients. Finally, the team resolved a major issue with team balancing and spawning for Alpha 3.23.2. and assisted in the resolution of a critical issue with analytics, including the creation of new gameplay analytics dashboard. Further progress was made on the mission refactor system, including the implementation of the contract generator, the querying of active and completed missions from the mission service, and the rework of the mission sharing flow. The team has also updated mission entities to support streaming and refactored the mission system to use both the mission broker and contract template systems. The data structures required to refactor missions were provided to the missions design and content teams too. So that means that they're working on the back end way that missions are going to be generated. To give you an example of why this is important, if Microtech is its own server, any mission generated on Microtech needs to be able to be handed off to other servers outside of the Microtech server within the same shard, allowing for a player to take a mission, say, kill this person who is in, Hurston. You have to then travel to Hurston, kill that person, and get their bounty. So the missions have to be hooked up to effectively the back-end shard system rather than being dedicated to the specific server. On top of that, the way they want to generate missions in the future, like 1.0, is using things like the dynamic economy. So it seems like there's doing a lot of changes, because they actually mentioned in somewhere else, maybe here, they mentioned a lot of the stuff they're doing is for 1.0. Like they're facing in that direction. Further support was given to mission design for updated delivery contract systems that interacts with the upcoming freight elevators too. And this is the UI. So this is the freight elevator manager. So we can see what you have in your warehouse and what you have in the elevator. So like this is all the stuff that's in the freight elevator in a small container, and then you can move it to a small container here on your in the warehouse, or vice versa. Gameplay features continued with the closeout of freight elevators, storage access kiosks, and instanced and personal hangars, and commodity trading updates. The UI flow is currently being updated to provide more streamlined experience when managing the warehouse inventory and moving items via freight elevator. Items like weapons, armor, and furniture can now be brought up too. Stacks of items can now be split into storage access and freight elevator kiosk UI, and filters for item categories were implemented. The mission needs to A, be on the persistence layer, or B, hooked into the persistence layer on its own server. Yeah, effectively. The economy. Last month, the effort versus reward algorithm was documented, which enabled the economy team to determine the technicalities of implementing the mission system refactor. This is where I heard about it. Basically, the economy team looked at complaints that we've had for a long time, which is, I don't want to do a mission that takes a ton of effort that gets me no money. Whereas this other mission takes me little to no effort, almost no danger, and I make a ton of money. So this one makes me nothing. This one makes me a lot. So why would I do the hard thing for no money when I can do the easy thing for more money? So they have developed an algorithm specifically to determine what is easy and what is hard. Probably using player data, because we can easily be read in terms of what we're doing. So once live, mission rewards will be based on time and difficulty to complete. Part of this involved establishing sensible time estimates for hauling missions and finalizing the reward balance for the Copian and Merrick missions. They also supported Invictus Launch Week and the existing cargo missions. A design for the refactor of the shop system is underway that will provide more flexibility for trading commodities and item shopping. Progress was also made on an algorithm to determine the base prices of commodities, because that's what they want to. They want to start off with, like, what the base price is, so that they can work on like how the dynamic will change. Interactables. These are neat. Last month, liquid carrying cargo containers were worked on with all sizes from white box to final. So we've got liquid, got another larger liquid. A destructible generator was also made for search and destroy missions. The devs are currently working up to final with separate pieces that will detach upon destruction. What is a search and destroy mission? Is that a mission in FPS, I'm guessing? Where you have to go in and like break stuff? I've never heard of this. I think I've seen that before, but I didn't know exactly what those were. Lighting. Lighting spent time finalizing work on instance hangars. Once complete, they will kick off new content for Alpha 4.0. They also began the look dev stage on new cave archetype. Yeah. The illegal monitoring mission is a ship-based version. Okay, so there might be an FPS-based version. Okay. Locations. May saw the landing zone team fixing bugs for instance hangars before moving on mandates for Alpha 4.0, including crafting the remaining stations for Pyro. The organics team continued iterating on new biomes. Mission design. Throughout May, mission design continued working on cargo missions, specifically polishing the abandon flow. This is used when a player decides they no longer want to play the mission. For example, if they already picked up a load, the contract will give them an allotted time to deliver it to a closer location and will take less of a reputation hit. For the player, if the player doesn't deliver the cargo in the allotted time, it will be marked as stolen. Planning was also done for the mission system refactor, which is required for server meshing. This will also bring the process and pipelines used by the team up to date to ensure everything is aligned with the current standards. Future content plans are underway, with some actively being built. Mission design also aligned with tech design on their deliverables to see if more of their upcoming gameplay can be utilized. Pyro-based repair missions are being actively designed. These involve replacing components containing radiation and power management via charge and drain. So that was something that they talked about for pretty recently. The idea that they were going to do a mission, a mission which was designed to, it's kind of like a chop shop mission where you're designed to repair ships that were damaged in like a salvage yard. That you'd go to a salvage yard and they'd spawn this stuff. And I think it was removed from the roadmap. I remember it being on the roadmap. I might be wrong on that one. But it was definitely something they mentioned in the past. I hope those mission algorithms take server performance into consideration. Bunker missions change entirely from good to bad servers. That is actually a good point, that there's a lot of reasons why some things are harder than others because of how bad bugs are. So some missions might be harder because the bugs are there, and they always fail because of the bugs. Like, I'm sure if you just looked at it from pure completion status, almost no box missions are fully completed because they're usually bugged. So, narrative. May kicked off with a flurry of activity for the narrative team. As part of the scoping of responsibilities for Star Citizen 1.0, they looked into taking a larger role in the oversight and maintenance of social AI in the universe. This includes reviewing and adjusting existing civilian behaviors so the personalities of the various locations and landing zones come through. The team also is also prototyping new behavior types that will appear throughout some of the upcoming locations, as well as previously established ones. This led to initiatives to develop vertical slices of social spaces to test out a variety of larger-scale mechanics, such as day-night schedules, updates to the vendor/bartender behavior, and some mission providers in a contained space to make sure that they're providing the desired content before expanding. They're finally fixing bartenders! Woo! It also doesn't sound like this is going to be recent. This is a full 1.0 initiative, so they're not going to fix the bartenders for another multiple years. They have DC missions where you destroy servers. Oh, good to know. But this also sounds like they're doing, as part of 1.0 development, further work was done on the location stories for major landing zones, with team members working with design to tailor the story to the gameplay. These missions will provide exciting opportunities for players to embark on adventures that embellish local storylines. So it looks like they're doing mission givers for local events. So what you would do at an ArcCorp or around Area 18 versus Hurston and so on and so forth. That definitely sounds like mission givers or the evolution of mission givers. As part of 1.0 development, further work was done on location stories of major artists. The team also continued to support upcoming patches, providing narrative content for some of the upcoming mission modules, providing additional in-fiction names and descriptions to items, and working with the core gameplay teams on future mechanics. On the website, the narrative team posted the Whitley's Guide to the Hercules and a brand new batch of Galactapedia entries. Online technology. In May, the online services team focused on wrapping up the social services backend refactor, which will improve the performance and scalability of social features, including chat, friends, and groups. This will allow for the service to handle more concurrent users and requests to help the team add new features more easily in the future. The team also spent a significant amount of time helping stabilize Alpha 3.23 by triaging issues and bug fixing, including 12 critical and 24 major bugs. Additionally, they began working on a potential Alpha 4.0 release features, such as mission system refactor, marker system refactor, and player trade feature in support of server meshing. The player trade feature is interesting. Does that mean you will be able to trade amongst each other? Or is that just players trading with like other AI stuff? R&D. The R&D team's support for Alpha 3.23 continued throughout May. For volumetric cloud renderings, stochastic Catmull ROM texture filtering was implemented for the new half-res render mode upsampler. That is a lot of words. The number of ray marching steps now also scales with scene depth to improve performance in scenes with near-distance occluders, buildings, cockpit, terrain, etc. Moreover, the progress continued with temporal render mode. All confidence metrics and transmittance filtering received further tweaks and improvements. A first draft of the code was submitted for internal use. Tech design. Tech design supported multiple areas of development for upcoming release patches, including resolving bugs related to creatures, interactables, cargo hangars, and item banks, weapons, and performance issues. Additionally, the team were involved in a variety of initiatives for gameplay-related systems, internal tools, and workflows. For example, they added ability for mission designers to change AI pilot skill levels depending on the mission, affecting their accuracy. They also outlined design requirements for transit system refactor and code syncing for the design team. Tech design spent time setting up test levels, harvestables, and spawning system for upcoming creatures, and began work on interaction improvements for kiosk screens. Work continued on the new location distribution tool, with May's work improving designing the initial rule set for location placements and improving to workflow and assigning with other teams on the next stage, aligning with other teams on the next stage. Progress was also made on internal scripting tools, with the team syncing with coders to slow workflows to help designers improve their experience. So a lot of internal tech stuff. UI. Montreal-based UI team worked on a variety of mandates in May, including task for cargo, ensuring all visual elements were polished and any bugs were thoroughly fixed. They also collaborated closely with the core gameplay pillar on the resource network and jump points. Meanwhile, the UK team continued updating the heads-up displays, HUD, across multiple ships to improve their functionality and aesthetics. VFX. Like other teams, the VFX team put the finishing touches on their work for Alpha 3.23 patch, fixing last-minute bugs and polishing effects where safe to do so. VFX also completed effects passes on several new vehicles, including for thrusters and damage. Work began on jump point effects. These have existed as prototypes for a while, but the team focused on getting the effects fully functional, working closely with the VFX programmers and feature team. Web platform. The web platform teams concentrated on preparing the anticipated traffic surges during Invictus Launch Week. To support Alpha 3.23 and ILW, they established a special support process to ensure prompt incident response. The system services team also planned and tested the platform's automated scaling schedule to handle the expected traffic waves effectively. This Invictus marked the first major traffic event since we transitioned our infrastructure to Kubernetes, and it was a great success. It provided an excellent opportunity to enhance our platform's observability and alerting systems. Despite hitting record traffic levels during the event, we experienced no performance issues. The platform team. There were some issues, but it was probably not due to CIG. There's a lot of web pages just didn't work. Then it came back. Kubernetes. Kubernetes? Is that what it is? What is that? K8s. You're speaking Greek to me right now. It's literally Greek. Okay. It's an AWS service. Okay. Okay. Thank you, chat. Apparently, it's an open source orchestration system for containers, containerization, and orchestration. This is why you gotta watch this live, because otherwise I may have missed that. So, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, Thursdays. May saw the launch team focus on version 2.0.1. This is currently in development and will be released in the upcoming weeks. The team have been working hard to address issues with authentication, error handling, and other bugs that are reported in Launcher 2.0. These improvements will result in a more stable and reliable experience for users. Some of the key elements of the next version are improved error handling and more intuitive UI for better performance. Issues involving expired sessions and 3001 and 2000 errors were also fixed. Too. Workarounds and troubleshooting guides were also added to the RSI knowledge base. Very interesting. So, what we've learned is that in May, they spent a lot of time on 3.23, which is pretty obvious. There's also a lot of stuff for 4.0. The mission system is getting a lot of effort for its refactor, and it looks like they're also setting it up for cargo stuff because there's a lot of cargo things. The economy team is doing a lot of work on trying to set the groundwork for the full economy, which I'm sure they'll want to kind of push forward with 4.0. 3 new ships are in the white box. We're seeing Arena Commandos getting a lot of updates, including a FPS map, a weightless, a zero-G or EVA zero-G FPS map, plus a Horde mode, which might be going to experimental mode for 4.0, including the new FPS scanning technology. Narrative is doing a lot of work for social AI and specifically working on 1.0 level narrative loops for specific locations. And yeah, that's pretty much it. AI was working on a lot of combat stuff. So this one is thick, but it's thick in the different reasons. A lot of it is super focused on the near end with vaguely discussing about 4.0 and 1.0. But does help us a lot, give us an idea that pretty much all of CIG has moved on to 4.0 focus, and in some cases even 1.0 focus. So they're no longer focusing on what is the next patch, and more focusing on how can we get set up for 1.0 release. Which, do not take that as they're releasing 1.0 soon. We'll know more at CitizenCon, but what it tells me is, based off of reading all of these over the last several years, it tells me that they're starting to change their mentality, whether they've been going, let's go from patch to patch to patch. With 4.0 coming out, they're like, all right, we've got all the basics in. Now we need to see what this game is actually going to be. How is it going to look like when there is no more alpha, when we have all of our systems in place? How are we going to get there? And what was it going to look like for full version? So with that, that's an important thing to note, that CIG is now in sort of long-term planning mode for beyond 2 years. The 1.0 as well is it's a completely different discussion. I don't like the fact that CIG calls it release 1.0, because it's not really going to be a release. It's going to be more like a beta stage. There'll still be bugs and all those sorts of things, but we'll get into more discussions on that in more detail. I might do a full video on that just to kind of set expectations. But I think that we need to wait until at least CitizenCon to get a better idea of what CIG is talking about when they talk about 1.0. But with that all being said, thank you for watching. As always, I want to hear, or first off, as always, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, hit that bell icon to be notified when these release and when we go live. And if you are listening to this and you want to have your own comments, if you have your own ideas of what I said, if you think I'm wrong about anything, if you want to correct me, let me know in the comments below. And like I always say, hope to see you someday in the black. When are they going to optimize cities? I'm not convinced devs are getting good feedback from players at 30 FPS. Brother, the fact that we're getting 30 FPS in cities is pretty good. Like, we were getting less than that. I'm getting like 30 to 40 FPS in cities. The simple answer is cities will get updated when server meshing is in and when they finish integration of Vulkan. Vulkan is added in this latest patch, but it's not fully in. And so there needs to be API integration for all of the different graphics cards, plus there's more stuff that they want to add from Vulkan. So that should improve performance, especially on potato PCs. And of course, server meshing, which is a 4.0 thing, which will kind of spin off servers into their own, like cities into their own servers, which will allow for more better server performance, which will give players better performance overall as well. Do you really need 60 FPS in cities? The Prisoner, there will be people who will tell you that unless they get 60 FPS, there's no reason to play it. And for some reason, in some cases, yeah, there is there's a legitimate reason for that, especially with things like sickness. Like if you have low FPS, you can get super sick and super like nauseous from it. But smaller, shittier game companies can do it. I'm not letting CIG gaslight me into believing it's not possible. What are you talking about? I just explained it to you there. Or are you just trying to be mad, Shibutaru? I was replying to him. I typed that before you replied to me. Now, you're not, the prisoner is being a little technical with you. CIG is not going to optimize cities until they reach beta phase. But a lot of the reason why we have low FPS in cities has less to do with optimizations and more to do with just incomplete systems. So Vulkan, which is a Gen 12 renderer, I think it's like a Gen 12 renderer RPI or something like that. Basically, when Vulkan is fully integrated, it will allow for your computer or a lot of the video game itself to be running on your graphics card and not on your CPU. The reason why you have dog shit FPS, even no matter what kind of graphics card you have, is because all of that is being run through your CPU more than your graphics card. But as they start to offload the work to your graphics card more frequently, you're going to get better looking overall stuff and higher FPS. Yeah, multi-thread processing in Vulkan's currently not on. They still have to work ahead of them, but will only get better from here. And I will say, Shaburatu, are you, have you played the game recently? Because like 3.23 had some major improvements in terms of FPS. At least for me, it did. DLSS is a huge improvement. So activating DLSS gave me like 30 FPS across the board. So I was getting low end 30, high end 40 or 50 FPS in some server, some like landing zones. And then like the second I left a landing zone, if I was in like on a planet, I was getting 120 FPS on planets. It was nuts. If you can run Vulkan, I suggest running it on testing and for testing. I run Vulkan, Vulkan/DLSS. I haven't tried Vulkan since the PTU. I may try to implement Vulkan from next time I play. I've gotten a good frame sometimes. I can achieve 50 to 60 in cities sometimes. Have you used the Vulkan renderer and DLSS or anything like that? When they hailed a metric in weekly report stating 13,000 bugs squashed a cycle, so much was added. Yeah. You have to use Vulkan to cheat us. So you've got a kind of a lower end system. No judgment. I'm just saying. Because this is like where CIG starts to matter. Because like I'm getting about 40 FPS in cities on average and pretty consistently. I'm using a 2070 Super with a i7 11700K. Yeah, I had some weird frame issues in PTU with Vulkan, so that's why I kind of got rid of it. So a 6700 XT. Google that real quick. That's the okay. That's the AMD graphics card. I think that's like better than my 2070 Super. That's weird that you're getting those sorts of FPS issues. There may be some other issue that's causing technical issue on your end there, Shabu. Like I'd look up maybe clearing the cache. Maybe it's your you have a SSD, right, to kind of run everything. Reinstalling the game does help. I've done that before. Just kind of. What I've done, what might be good if you don't have the 2.0 launcher, delete the game entirely from your computer, then download the new launcher, the 2.0 launcher, and then start from there. Do an M2 drive. Okay. Yeah, I try that. Because like basically what we're all saying is you shouldn't be having those problems with your setups. Most of us have similar setups or around the similar setup or worse setups, and we're getting better performance than you, which shouldn't happen. 3.23 patch notes. A Vulkan renderer is currently in beta, and there are a few known crashes and issues that require a future AMD or NVIDIA driver update that's not been released yet. Yeah, no, the both AMD and NVIDIA have acknowledged that they're working on a driver for Star Citizen. The one thing I gotta say about Star Citizen is that Star Citizen is a great program to test your computers. Because you're going to find out all sorts of things that are wrong with your computers by Star Citizen because of how, like, raw and unfiltered the game can be. It's getting real with NVIDIA and AMD are pushing patches now. I think AMD and NVIDIA are both waiting for CIG to finish implementation of Vulkan, but they have acknowledged that it's something that that's been requested by CIG, and they are going to work on it with CIG, but I think CIG wants to hold that off a little bit until they can get full Vulkan integration so that they don't have to like have a patch that then breaks. I just switched from 4 sticks to 32 gig of RAM to 2 sticks of 64 and a higher speed, and it helped with stuttering but not FPS. Okay. You got to pop up from CIG to update your GPU drivers. Huh, I should probably do that myself. I could see them implementing the full version of Vulkan in 4.0. It seems like they're fairly close, and 4.0 is like September. So, which if they did that, that means we would see. Yeah, I could see that, because that would be a big NVIDIA and AMD promoting the fact that they're supporting Star Citizen with the 4.0 launch, which is effectively like the last alpha build or the last alpha branch 4.0. NVIDIA's driver's been out for a month now. Oh, so they actually do have a driver for Star Citizen. That's interesting. Running Star Citizen on VR, does that mean my system is good? Probably. Or you have a high tolerance for low FPS. Because most VR requires a minimum of like 120 per screen, and you're probably getting like less than that. All right, I'm going to check something real quickly, and I'll be right back. All right. Ooh. Might be up to date. The live patch was on May 10th, and they did drop the driver 2 days ago. Okay, that's cool. All right, y'all. I think we're going to call it a night because I've been streaming for almost 4 hours. It's been nice hanging out with y'all. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, please hit that follow button on Twitch and subscribe button on YouTube. It means a lot to y'all. Come out and do that. I'll be streaming a little early tomorrow. We will be doing pub and plays. I don't know what we'll do for pub and plays. We might just do Star Citizen. We might do something else. We'll see. I got to talk with Loken about it. But there will be a new Astro Historian for Patreons this weekend. It's a long one, so it's going to take a little bit longer for me. It's already been recorded. I just have to put start editing it, which won't be too difficult, but it's going to be a little tricky because it's a lot of stuff with footage I don't have for anything, so it's going to be a lot of stand-in footage. But Saturday, we will not have a captain's table because Saturday I'll be doing a tournament with a bunch of other content creators where we are raising money for charity. So we'd love to have you come out and join us there. I'm going to be with Team Forrester and Burks. So Captain Burks, myself, and no, not Captain Burks, just Burks. Burks and Forrester and I will be going head to head against everybody else. Everyone's been saying, Paul, you're going to wipe the floor of us because you've got the PvP king. It's like, well, we'll see. Yeah, thank you for watching. Love your faces. Thank you for the generous donation of like $100 on YouTube, which is nuts. Thank you, TV Liquid, for the raid. See if there's anybody else. There was like another raid, I think. No, that was about it. I think for the biddies and the community subs and all that sort of things. Thank you so much for all that. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.